It's Friday. Welcome to the program. I am Tom Connors. With me is the boss man, Andre.
Greetings, everyone, and I hope you're all having a good Friday, end of the week, and the final stream of what has frankly been a very slow month where news are concerned.
Yeah, for the most part. We also have joining us this morning, at least on panel for now, Six. I think she stepped away and didn't realize we started.
Oh.
And she went. She's hanging out in the background. Thank you for being here, Six. And we also have joining us Script Doctor. How you doing?
Oh, I'm staying warm. That's about it. Doing pretty well. Glad to be here.
And because of this other guest, now we're outnumbered by Canadians. How you doing, Paul?
I'm good. It's only -1 Script. Come on. That's nothing. That's thong weather up here. We're okay. That's -1 Celsius.
You guys are actually colder than me for once. Usually it's the other way around.
Yeah, 30, what is it? 32 degrees Fahrenheit is freezing?
Freezing, yeah, it's 13 here.
Oh, wow.
And
That's
you are colder than us right now.
That's
right.
You
said you're -1. Oh, I suppose with Celsius, yeah.
Yeah, that's 13 is below age of majority. You better be careful. Don't go out there.
This is true.
And I should say this is not Fidel Castro. This is Louis Riel. Just so you know.
Oh, I thought it was Andy Kaufman with a mustache.
It looks kind of like Justin Trudeau during Halloween.
Maybe, I think so.
It's Trudeau.
Yeah, no, we're not talking about him.
No, let's not. But let's talk about Dr. Longdongler.
Already, he's in early.
He's in here early. Yes, he is. Sending a thumbs up. Thank you so much. Hit that thumbs up if you haven't already. It's free. Costs you nothing. You just got to move your fingers a little bit. And if you're on your phone and whatnot, switch over.
Right.
Six is having audio issues.
Uh-oh.
Hyperguyver says, I just hope there's no truth to Cavil being removed from Highlander for Chris Hemsworth. Last thing we need is for the movie to become a Thor. Well, this is news to me.
Never heard of that.
Yeah, this is complete and utter news to me. Let me take a look at this while Andre reads the next one.
Yeah,
I'll look that up.
Do check what's going on with that. While Horseradish Power says for £5, Velma episode 6 has Daphne origin being similar to Penguin in Batman Returns. And Velma is busy with her dad getting drunk and visiting strip bars. WTF. Thanks for suffering through it and giving us a rundown of that, because I have to say I'm curious to how many people are actually watching this show anymore. I know that plenty people saw the first episode, but how many came back for episode 2, 3, 4, 5, let alone 6? That is the question. And then it got reviewed. That's the power of hate.
I wouldn't call them shows. I'd call them bleeding wounds. So that's it. Yeah, they have to come back just to be able to staunch the bleeding. What else are you going to do?
It's not coagulating. It's
not
stopping.
It's just not stopping. More pressure.
The blood's too thin. Just
Honestly,
like its skin.
I've only been reading other people's reviews. I stopped after watching the first 2 episodes. So I have to be honest, truthful. I can't pretend I've watched more episodes.
No, I've read some of the reviews, and it does look like my prediction that the brain transplant thing might lead to the creation of the Scooby dog. So
oh my god, yeah. So we still might get that sex scene between Black Shaggy and Scooby.
No, she's not the girl's not Scooby.
I thought her name was spelled Scoobi.
No, her name is Gigi.
Gigi. Okay.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And she's trying to turn, according to the last review I read, she's trying to turn Norville into not a simp.
That would be good. That would be handy. We don't need more simps.
Yeah, it just sounds better and better.
Okay, I'm having a problem here. Somehow Yahoo took over my fucking Google Chrome. I don't know when, how, or where.
So every time you try to search, it automatically switches to Yahoo?
Yeah, something happened here.
Okay, that means you got a bug. You've been
which is
infected.
funny because I haven't downloaded anything forever.
No,
Weird.
You have been. That is the typical. Generally it's not fatal. You have to go into your settings, and I would strongly
We'll
suggest
sort it out. We'll
flip
sort it
the
out
fire.
off stream.
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
This report comes from Giant Freaking Robot, so I give it about as much
Credence.
credence. Yeah.
well, since it comes from there, it goes right into the coin toss territory. It might be true, but
Yeah.
then again, it might not be. And I haven't done enough of a research on their stories to be able to tell if it is legit or not. But since it's published, Tom, bring it up on screen, and we can go through.
Well,
that,
I'm actually looking
story.
through. Yeah. I was looking through.
And we'll take it as it is, which is with a little bit of a grain of salt. But
Well-
if Cavil had lost the Highlander 2, I would remain unsurprised. I wouldn't be tremendously surprised if that were to happen. So
Was he attached to Highlander at all?
Yes, he was.
Yeah, he's been attached for a little while here, and they were supposed to start shooting this April or last year actually, and possibly this year now. But this one's actually coming from Koimo, whatever that is, according to this one.
So
After
this is the
DC's
ultimate source, Koimoi.
I guess. I've never even heard of them before. According to a report, they're going by Giant Freaking Robot.
Okay, so still
So-
Giant Freaking Robot. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So I give it about as much credence as. Yeah. I
As
don't trust
Credence
it.
Revival getting revived.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. No, because basically what we heard of Chris Hemsworth was that he had learned what kind of potential he had for early onset Parkinson or something to that end. So he was going to take some
No,
time
it was
off
Alzheimer's.
from the legislature. Also, something to that end. So Alzheimer then. So he was going to take some time to meditate, but according to Giant Freaking Robot then, so massive grain of salt, that time of thinking is over, and he's now back as Highlander after they ditched Henry Cavill.
So are the Hemsworth at war with Cavil? Like they're attacking him from using a pincer move to get him from both sides?
Well,
no,
maybe,
I think
kinda
it has more
seems
to
like
do with. I think the Hemsworths are the Mickey Rourkes to Cavill's Bruce Willis. If you're familiar with the fact that anything that Bruce
No.
Willis turned down in the '80s, it was given to Mickey Rourke.
Or to use another analogy, there's Schwarzenegger and Stallone, who were like competing and vying for every single major action blockbuster in the 80s and 90s. As Tom famously has said before, Schwarzenegger even tricked Stallone into doing Stop or My Mom Will Shoot, something Stallone himself has later admitted that he was completely psyched into doing that.
Well, you've also got a little bit closer set of buff dudes going after each other. There's a big height difference between Stallone and Schwarzenegger.
Very much so, yes.
And the Hemsworths, although I don't know if Liam is as buff as Chris, but maybe, I mean, there's no reason why he couldn't work at it.
The difference here was at that time, Stallone and Schwarzenegger had about, depending on what you're doing, similar ranges.
Yeah, true. Yes, and most of the box office for action heroes.
Yeah.
Biggest difference was that for Judge Dredd, they had to have Stallone stand on the box whenever he was next to someone, whereas with Schwarzenegger, they wouldn't have had to do that. But
They'd have to dig a ditch for him.
Now he's quite normal height.
Is he?
Yeah, oh yeah, Schwarzenegger is very average height.
Yeah.
He's
not
like
as big
5'11"-ish.
Oh, really?
Yep.
I thought he was 10'4".
Now you're thinking of Dolph Lundgren.
Oh, Dolph Lundgren, yes. He was big.
He's really tall.
But those Swedes are tall.
Some of them, yeah.
Actually, I hated going to Denmark because we were in Copenhagen and everyone was beautiful, stunning, tall, men, women, everybody was good looking.
Vikings only brought back the best.
If you have any kind of personal issues, don't go to Copenhagen. You'll be crushed. It's just not healthy if you're a subhuman person. They're beautiful people. Hated them.
Well,
Anyway.
there you go, Denmark. That's
I hear
that
Sweden
was
is
good
like
info.
that too, where everyone is really quite attractive in the big city.
But let's just humor this rumor for a moment. Let's just assume that this is one of the times when the coin flop has gone in giant freaking robots' favor, and Henry Cavill is indeed out of the Highlander, replaced with Chris Hemsworth. Why do you think that might have been? Script.
I could only suspect that maybe his time with regards to the 40K series he's currently attached to is taking priority, and he decided to move from Highlander to that project.
Paul, anything to add to that?
Well, I'm really amazed that there aren't more people of that stature out there in Hollywood who could vie for these products. But on the other hand, we know that you want to be able to open big, as we call it, even if it's cable. I mean, not cable, even if it's streaming. So I would say, so my question to you guys is, do you think Cavill and Chris are on the same open level, attraction level? Is one more interesting than the other?
Tom, your thoughts?
Well, on a box office level, Chris
Sure.
Hemsworth has had more movies.
True.
More hits, more whatever you want to call it, more leading roles. Definitely, like, let me put it to you this way. Normally, Chris Hemsworth isn't the one you settle for. Henry Cavill would be the one you settle for instead of Chris Hemsworth, because Chris is technically the bigger star. But
I think so.
As far as like I don't know. I mean, the women seem to like are very, very, very hung up on Henry more so than Chris. I don't see him having as big of a following as like Momoa, even on that respect. So I guess it depends on how you look at it. But I mean, in this case, I don't buy this mainly because it's like going upwards instead of backwards. If they would lose Henry, it sounds more like if Chris was going to do this, he would have done it already before. That's what it feels like.
Where's Highlander supposed to be? Is it a movie or streaming?
It's a movie, as far as we know. I can't remember the studio that's behind it now, but I think it was Paramount, but I'm not 100%. Because I believe the rights were under Dimension and Miramax, and they've gone all over the place now, and I think they wound up at Paramount. But don't quote me on it. Might even be Fox for all I fucking know.
And as for me, just assuming for the sake of discussion that this is real without saying that it is, but if in the event that it is, I think one of the reasons is that they may have decided that there's like too much baggage with Henry Cavill right now. He now is suddenly associated with leaving The Witcher and not getting Superman, and he has a reputation for being difficult to work with, even though it's only about preserving the integrity of the source material. And for that reason, they decided that, we're not going to go with this. The industry is going to be against it. Everyone is going to root for it to fail. We'll go with someone who the entertainment media complex doesn't have any issues with. Or the whole World of Warcraft thing. Not Warcraft. The Warhammer thing is taking up so much of his time that he dropped out of Highlander.
It could also be that he was just getting sick and tired of waiting around, because, like I said, it was supposed to start shooting almost a year ago.
Yeah.
Like he had posted on his Instagram. He
Because
was supposed to go to Ireland and start shooting it, but he never did.
One thing that does lend credibility to it is now how long ago since it was that he was announced, and we haven't heard anything since. That does actually lend credibility to that he's no longer attached.
But if they actually had Chris Hemsworth attached, they'd be shouting it from the rooftops. That's what I'm trying to say. Because regardless of what people think in the chat as far as which one is the better actor, Chris Hemsworth is the bigger actor. That's all there is to it. He's been in more movies. He's, outside of Marvel, he's got a lot more hits than Henry Cavill has. That's the thing. Henry Cavill is still not quite at the level to where he can open a movie yet. Like, I've never seen him open a movie on his own outside of Superman.
That out to you. He hasn't worked on anything that's not IP related with an established IP. The first thing he is doing that he's opening himself, that's an IP no one has seen yet, is Argyle, and that's with Matthew Vaughn attached. And I think that's an Apple Plus exclusive.
Damn, I thought that was a Die Hard spinoff.
Nope, but it is an homage to Die Hard and Lethal Weapon.
Argyle, of course, was the limo driver in the original Die Hard.
Yep.
I mean, that's a good point. Cavill's most interesting sortie in movies was the bad guy in Mission Impossible.
Yeah, his only other big movie I think that he was remotely close to lead in would have been Man from U.N.C.L.E., wouldn't it have been?
Yep.
And that was how long ago now?
Yeah, it's a long time. Yeah, that didn't work.
And that didn't do anything at the box office really either, no.
He's the kind of actor, well, both Hemsworth and Cavill are the kind of actors that just need the right movie at the right time to solidify their status. I mean, I could point to Keanu Reeves, although he's had his moments, but it really was lately John Wick that made him bankable again.
Well, funnily enough, some of the John Wick people are behind Highlander. And that's where this is where it made sense to me. This is the perfect project to put Henry on that level.
Yeah,
right. This is to prove that he can open something. It's a well enough known IP, but it doesn't really, you're going to sell just as many tickets because he's there as you are because it's Highlander. Because Highlander's it's got a fan base, but it's not like huge. So I think it's one of those things that it was a nice match. But at this point, if it's been just, if he's left the project, and if they have Chris Hemsworth, they would have announced it. That's my whole point. Sorry.
Yeah, I think it's true. And also, I think there's a nice divergence between what Cavill has done in Highlander to keep his personal and past projects separate, whereas Hemsworth as Highlander is just going to look like Thor in kilts.
Thor 2, exactly, yeah.
No, Thor 8.
Thor 8, whatever it is, yeah. Another Thor. Thor 2.0 is what I meant to say, but yeah.
It's a Thor in my bum.
Yeah. Yeah, so with that, I think I wouldn't put any credence into it yet. Psychotic has been a member for 4 months. Thank you. We got 70s Rock Fan in the house. How you doing? And he gifted 5 Midnight's Edge memberships. Holy crap. That reminds me, Monday we're doing another Canon discussion. On Canon Films on 70s Rock Fan, and we're hoping to have Austin Trench there. For those who don't know his name, he's the guy who literally wrote the book on Canon. He wrote the Canon Film Guide, so hopefully he will be there. And you never know, maybe Razorfist will show up.
He knows the Canon on Canon.
Indeed, he does. And maybe I can talk Andre into being there. Keely Chow says, "How late are Tom and Andre going to be? Time to get the hamsters going." Well, we weren't too bad today. Like 10, 20 minutes.
We'll see if we can't do better in February because
get your own channel. You try to be on time, for crying out loud.
If we were on time in February, would that be racist, or would it be we being allies?
Day, technically,
I'm not sure.
What the hell is wrong with February?
February's Black History Month.
Oh my god. Okay, fine. I'll put it another way. We'll be on time.
Well, being on time is racist, right? Don't you remember that?
Oh, yeah. Okay, I will. Yeah. So then we're not going to be on time until March then.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
Or should we be on time just because? That confuses me now. I don't know which one makes us more racist.
Well, you can be so late that you're on time.
Whichever one it is, let's do that.
Okay.
And then 70s.
We'll get a few extra hamsters, and we'll
70s Rock Fan. It says Midnight's Edge rocks. Well, thank you so much, Brian. We appreciate that. We got Duck Nation, who's been here for 18 months. Thank you. Psychotic coming in with a super chat and says, "Hey, all. I don't expect much out of Shazam, but I just want to have fun with and not be woked too. Woked. That's a new way of putting it. I have Cape fatigue and more about good
Care
writing.
more about
And
good
care more.
writing.
Oh, these fucking green ones fuck with my screen. I can't read them. Sorry about that. Psychotic. But yeah, that's actually probably a good place to jump into our main topic of the day. Shazam.
Yeah,
That's right.
indeed.
So we got a new
have
trailer. What did you guys think of it? Let's start with you, Script. What did you think of the new trailer?
It was all right. Pretty much spoils the movie. Nice new vistas of Etobicoke, made to look like Fawcett City. They, again, I mentioned this last night. Not a big fan of climactic scenes occurring in a football stadium. Just doesn't appeal to me. Feels kind of cheap. Lots of set pieces in a football stadium. But no, I like the stakes. I like the fact that Helen Mirren's character seems to want to take back the powers.
That's Midnight's Edge's very own Helen Mirren. Get it right.
Right. Take back her own power. Take back the powers from the Billy Batson and his family. And yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting to see that it has a little bit of stakes to it. So that'd be cool.
That sounds good. And Paul doesn't get that joke. See, what happened here was
I don't get the Helen Mirren joke.
We did a reunion for Blood In, Blood Out, a movie directed by Taylor Hackford.
Okay.
And Taylor Hackford happens to be married to Helen Mirren.
Oh.
So we're in the middle of the broadcast. You know, we've got all the cast up there. Taylor's talking and all this shit. A head keeps popping in behind Taylor. We're like, what the fuck is that? Taylor finally goes, somebody...
I was like,
it's Taylor finally goes, somebody here wants to talk to you guys. We're like, okay. So here she goes. She jumps on the street. She goes, hi, boys. How are you doing? I just wanted to say hello. You know, it's like, holy shit, we got Helen Mirren on fucking Midnight's Edge.
Really? I'll have to check that out. Wow.
Yeah, it's in the Blood In, Blood Out reunion, which is under the Star Interviews.
You need to just clip that bit out, Andre.
Yeah, I probably should.
That's
yeah, it
great.
was a lot of fun. It was surreal. It was very surreal. But yeah, so Paul, what did you think of the new Shazam trailer?
Well, it's kind of typical superhero now. There's nothing surprising. Tons of CGI. Some of it doesn't look really that good either. Although I think they changed the backing track music compared to the first trailer. And this trailer got amped up way more. Like it's been adjusted compared to the previous trailer. Yeah, they gave us some more stuff. They got Lucy Liu, and either she's gained weight or they stuffed her in a bigger costume. And Helen Mirren, I mean, it's fun. Yeah, I agree with Script that there's actually a nice reason for the antagonists to do their antagonizing. They want their power back. I think that's great. I'm not feeling the entire squad of Shazamers. They're feeling quite generic. It's way more fun if you've got Shazam and his sidekick just trying to figure stuff out on their own. Why we have to pollute it with a whole bunch of extra people that I don't understand. It looks way better than Black Adam. I'll say that. And the lead Levy is I think it looks like he didn't mail it in, at least the pieces from the trailer. I wasn't looking forward to seeing it after the first trailer. I am interested and intrigued now.
See, the one thing that you just reminded me of when you said the background music, yeah, they used a Drake or Aubrey, whatever his name was, BS song about him starting from the bottom, and I'm like, that's not a good song for a trailer, especially when they try to epic it up. And
you're talking about the first
no, the one that came
no,
out
the
last
one we just
yesterday.
and they had a similar thing, I think, in the other one, but I think it was
I don't listen to lyrics.
I think it was Eminem in the other one.
Oh no, I know the history of the guy because like I have family members that were extras on Degrassi when his parents bought him his role on that show. And I'm like, yeah, you started from the bottom. BS.
But no, Script's right. If they're not using a classic rock song, they're using one of these kind of songs lately.
Yeah.
And you're right, Script. In the first one, I think it was the Eminem song, and this one, it was the
It's Drake.
yeah.
I
whatever it
like
is.
the song. I mean, from a sonic perspective, I thought, wow, this is
Oh, they
This-
remixed it to try and sound cool, but it's yeah.
is it? You have an
Oh,
in
yeah.
for Drake, don't you?
I don't. He's very inauthentic, and I also think he picked his name based off of a duck, but he's trying to say it's a dragon. I'm like, it's not. It means duck.
Okay.
I can't
You're-
picture
you're-
Script Doctor listening to rap music.
you're
That's
talking about- you're talking-
Script, say that one more time. What was it you said there about like Drake? Meaning which language?
I don't know, because that's the thing. Like he couldn't cite the language for it. I think he took it off of maybe a Wheel of Time book where a dragon was
Okay.
named Drake or
I
something.
can confirm that Drake, if you ignore the American spelling, if you pretend that's Swedish, drake, that's dragon in Swedish.
Drake, yeah, but
Yeah.
it's not spelled the same, if my understanding.
Yes, it is. That's how it's
It
spelled.
is?
Drake. Drake.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Dragon in Swedish.
with
Then
with an
why is he called
umlaut
Drake?
over the K.
No. It's just standard. Exact. Drake. No dots or anything like that.
You can't
Just
have
straightforward.
dots over
That actually
consonants.
does mean dragon in Swedish.
Drake.
Yeah,
Yeah, but he
drake.
doesn't say it that way. He calls himself Drake. Drake is definitively a duck.
A male duck.
Yeah,
He's Draco.
Draco would be more clever. Yeah,
You know what? I mean, you were talking about inauthentic and show business.
yeah.
I'm sorry, but that's not an argument you're going to win.
Most of show business isn't authentic.
Well,
of course.
that's the
I'm
whole
not saying
point.
that
of show
Drake
business.
Yeah, like his origin is very inauthentic. That's for sure.
Yeah,
But that's
I'm not.
fine
To
too.
be clear, I'm not saying that that Drake meant for it to be Swedish. That he decided Swedish is such a brilliant language. I'm going to take the Swedish word for dragon and go with that. It could be that he locked out and he screwed up something else. But yeah, all I'm just
He
saying is
didn't
that,
do his research and he got the pronunciation wrong.
And
No,
it's
it's
hurt
the
his
dragon.
career enormously.
Not real. No. His family is very well to do. They're
Really?
like Taylor Swift's dad. They could have bought him an album for her to sign with. They would have.
Oh, so he's not from the hood.
No, he's from Richmond Hill.
Yo, that's where we
Yeah.
build Chrysler.
You'd be surprised how many of these rappers are actually not from the background they pretend they are.
Oh, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Even Tupac came from a completely different background than you'd probably think. He came from mostly acting and dancing.
Wow.
Yeah. He tried to be an actor. He even took ballet and shit. Like he was like really heavy into like the dancing arts and all that kind of stuff. Like, yeah. And like even Ice Cube didn't come from as bad of backgrounds as even the movies and stuff try to make it out to be. He was the one that was from the suburbs and shit. I'm not shitting you.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, an awful lot of musicians can't make it unless they have some kind of financial wherewithal behind them.
Yes, and I think you're right, Verse Please. I believe that's the school him and Jada Pinkett went to together, if I remember right.
And Juilliard is free, from what I understand.
I visited Juilliard. I've
Yeah,
never been
well,
able
like
to
her
find-
and him have like a history together, yeah. Or had a history.
Yeah,
They even
all
have her as
this,
a character in his shitty biopic they put together.
all this fakeosity in show business. I am completely shocked. I am utterly stone
You
faced.
should be.
I think I'm leaving. Pretty soon there'll be rumors about me being Hungarian.
Yeah, well, no, as I say, we come from too humble of backgrounds to be movie
We
stars. That's the
do.
problem.
Well, listen,
Too
here in
blue
Canada,
collar.
we've got, in the academic world, we've got a ton of people that Drew Taylor called pretendians. White people who, for whatever reason that no one can figure out, decided that they had some kind of a First Nations heritage and got prestigious positions in universities that made these positions open only to people of indigenous backgrounds, and then they got found out to be like totally white.
Oh, I went to college with someone whose mom was that, and she would make fundraisers to go on various trips for a cause, but it was really just vacations.
And she was a pretendian.
Yep.
Wow. Yeah. So I don't know. It's one of those weird things.
Tipping Bar must be new here. He wonders if Chato is from a Canadian hood.
Yep. Don Mills, bitches. I'm from Don Mills. Drop the needle.
When he talks about syrup, it's like serious scissor.
Serious syrup. Yeah. I had Wilkett
100%.
100% Don Mills, the first designed community in the world. Even German filmmakers came by to our community to view and film, how this designed community worked. I was
maple
there.
scissor.
I will say though, it was multi-ethnic. I mean, we had, everybody there. It's quite
so like Maple is today.
Maple, Ontario.
Yeah,
I have not been to Maple, Ontario in a while.
Oh, okay.
Fatty, straight out of Don Mills.
Straight out of Don Mills. That's right.
I'm white as white can be.
That's right.
You ain't never seen a cracker like me.
I lived in the Tomonaco Apartments, 1055 Don Mills Road, bitches. Yeah. Right across from the Don Way.
With that, let us continue back to Shazam.
Andre's
that's
not
where
impressed.
we started.
Yes, but Andre, what did you think of the Shazam trailer?
Well, it was boring as shit.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Is that all you have to say?
Well, I can elaborate on it. Like the short version is, I thought it was boring as shit. So that's a summary. The longer version, I never really liked the first Shazam. I thought it just wasn't for me. There was like something tonally about it that I didn't like. I've never been into the Shazam character. I thought the Billy Barty's adult version in Shazam was like so overblown and like so over the top, with an adult actor overacting to pretend to be like a 12-year-old or something like that. So yeah, just a whole movie I thought was like stupid. So I was disposed against liking this one to begin with because I didn't like the first. And then on top of that, now we know that this movie has no future. It's a dead end. And I was kind of like thinking about it that, well, most original movies are creative dead ends because they're standalone and there's no franchise in the wing waiting behind them. But we have now been conditioned for going on 2 decades to always be excited for not just the movie coming, but the movie after that, and the movie after that, and the movie after that, and the event after that. And that's something ironic in a sense, because now we still have a number of DC movies coming out that we all should at this point consider to be standalone movies and treat them as that, because there's nothing coming after them. I mean, we don't know exactly what James Gunn is planning, but chances are they're all creative dead ends. Like there's no future to the cast, to the story. It all ends after the next movie. So normally, like for instance, you have like the Dracula movie with Nicolas Cage. I can't wait for that. But there's no sequel in the wings for that. Still can't wait. But with
that looks good.
I find that because it's a creative dead end and there's nothing coming after, I don't care. It's kind of like getting invested into a series that's already cancelled on a cliffhanger. Like, why get into it in the first place?
So is it Gunn? Did Gunn dead end it?
Yeah, kind of, because they were planning on proceeding with this universe, this cast, and then Gunn came in and he dead ended it. So for me, those are like 2 reasons to not be excited. One, I don't care about this movie because I didn't like the first one, and seeing this trailer, I kind of look forward to Helen Mirren. But beyond that, like, I didn't like the music, didn't like the too expressive colors. I did kind of like find it interesting to see how the Shazam uniform changed over the course of the movie. How it's like getting like this black goo over it, kind of like we saw in Black Adam. So I was like thinking, oh, okay, here's a Black Adam link. Well, too bad that's not going to be followed up on in any future movies, whether it be Shazam or Black Adam. So again, another reason why I don't care. So, and right now, like, I saw the trailer when it came out. I saw it again just before the show. I honestly couldn't tell you what happened in it because it was
But
just like
it's okay,
CGI.
generic superhero though. It
Yeah,
could be
that's
fun.
it. It's so generic.
Yeah.
It's so generic and so safe and so
Yep. I agree with you.
bland. Just like, it's colorful, but so incredibly
Yeah, but
bland.
you're dead inside, Andre. I mean,
Well,
I'm not
so
dead
must be
inside for
theater-
the Dracula movie. I wasn't dead inside
Again-
for Black Adam. I loved Black Adam.
now we'll get back to Dracula in a few minutes, but go
I
ahead,
think
Paul.
we have a stakes issue again. That if the first Shazam was a small movie exploring his powers, and all he's doing is dealing with the criminal elements in the city, and don't amp it up to the undead and all that stuff, it makes it for a much more fun, small movie. And then at least you've got some place to go to that's notched up just a little bit. But this is notched way higher in terms of compared to the first movie, and that just gets tiresome. It's just unbelievably, and part of the challenge too is that there's no really good bad guys out there. Perhaps the best bad guy out there is Overlander from The Boys.
Oh, Homelander. Yeah.
Homelander, maybe one of the best baddies next to not Trask, the guy on the Marvel movie with the guy who fights who's blind, Daredevil.
Daredevil, yeah.
This is what happens when you turn 68. It's like you completely lose.
Well,
it.
I mean, it's not really so much
Fisk.
James. Yeah, Wilson Fisk. Again, a good bad guy makes it great, but this wasn't killed solely by Gunn. Peter Safran's the producer who's shepherded the Shazam movies.
Oh.
So it's his baby too that he's put an axe on. So I mean, that should tell you the fate of the next of the DC stuff. But Paul's not wrong. Is that whenever a sequel is pitched, it's always supposed to be bigger and better. The problem is that they take that bigger aspect far too literally, to the point where they mean, oh, we need more of this. Well, no, bigger technically means stakes, some more personal stakes with regards to characters and what they're being faced off. It doesn't mean we have to destroy half of a city in order for that to be quote unquote bigger. Seems that they're kind of doing a little bit of that in this trailer, which again, it's very special effects heavy.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the idea that, like, the part of the stakes that I picked up on that I think is interesting is the fact that his family, who have the shared powers of Shazam, are losing them. They're being stolen by these gods, these lady gods. So and what is their reason for stealing it, aside from the fact that they don't think he and the family deserves the power? Or is it something
because they stole it from their father years ago or whatever it was? Yeah. So I think that's said in the trailer.
Yeah, that's the point of it.
Because they're sisters, and that's the whole thing. Yeah.
But also, it's the question is being like, if they get their power back, what are they going to do with it? Like, that's the I want to know.
Laugh that evil laugh.
They're going to take out the patriarchy.
That.
Well, I mean, the first film to me, as I've said many a time, and I'm not the only one, that is the best Marvel movie that DC ever made. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot more than a lot of people did. This one, I wasn't looking so much forward to it. This trailer sold me a little bit more than the last one, but I think Script's right in that it gives away probably too much of the plot. We could be wrong, but I think he and others are probably spot on. We seemingly get most of the major beats, it seems like, here as to where the movie's going. Like Script said, they clearly have a way of taking away the power or taking the powers back, which is the whole kind of point of why they're there. And to what end, we don't know. That's about the only thing the trailer didn't give us, other than, they supposedly, the gods stole the power from their father or whatever was the whole point. And Billy is not the one who's supposed to get them, or whatever, according to them. And then you have the whole battle between him and the god that gave him the power to begin with, saying that he isn't deserving of it or whatever. So like there's that whole thing. So it's kind of a typical second film run of, oh, is the superhero even deserving of it, or are they really even ready for said responsibility? We've seen it a million times over, all the way back to
and he manages to steal that staff thing with the blue glowing top Huji.
well, that or he gets that given to him by the other god, I think. Or I think that god will
Oh.
get killed by
I thought that was
Helen
Helen
Mirren.
Mirren's staff that he.
It might be.
pulled.
I don't know. I can't remember.
He's just putting some batteries in it.
He's got a
Probably.
dragon to fight for most of the movie, it looks like.
But like Andre's right. Like the outside of the film itself having no stakes, it has no stakes in the real world because it could be one of the biggest successes in the world, and unless it is one of those big $1 billion hits, I don't see this being, you know, why? Who cares?
But after
And
a glut of lousy superhero movies, there's been a fairly large gap, and this might succeed just because
It might, but
it's kind of colorful.
it just seems a bit heavier than the first film, and even the tone seems a bit darker than I would expect, which is not a bad thing sometimes, but that was one thing to me that I did enjoy about the first film, as much of a quote-unquote Marvel movie as it was just a fun movie. And I remembered the show from when I was a kid, and I know they had changed some things and amalgamized a few versions of the character. But for what it was, I was okay. My biggest problem with it is what Script and others have pointed out, and that was what's his face when he was an adult playing Billy, Shazam. He had the Tom Hanks and Big issue, and that is that he was acting less mature than the kid actor was when he wasn't. And then, as Clobby pointed out last night, that change in the character never made sense, because otherwise, why does he need the wisdom then? Like, because he's not really acting very smart, you know. It's kind of dumb.
He's ignoring the wisdom, yeah. Not
Or
why does
ignoring
he
it.
He does need
Why
it.
isn't
He
he?
100% needs it, but
He needs it. Why isn't he using it? Yes, exactly is my point. Yeah. Because actually, like, that's the thing it doesn't make sense to me is, yeah, why is he still a kid when he's Shazam?
He should be.
No.
No,
He never
there's the
was before.
reconciliation. He has the purity of a child, but he has the wisdom of an adult. Like, that's the balance. The problem is that in some of the stuff that Clobby was mentioning last night, he's written as a kid, only as a kid. He doesn't have the purity of innocence of a child within the adult form of Captain Marvel, which is what is more traditionally the case.
Oh, we're arguing over a comic book movie.
Yeah, but yeah, you know, it's true. But with that, we'll see. I don't think it's going to be the big superhero movie of the year. I don't think, because the first movie didn't do all that great. In fact, I think it did less than Ant-Man, if I remember right, which was one of the lower end Marvel films. So
I thought Ant-Man did okay.
Ant-Man did better. That's my point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Ant-Man did around 400 plus, and then
So this is
Shazam
366
did
million
Yeah,
for Shazam.
yeah. I was gonna say it
Depending
was
on
under 4.
Yeah. Again, its cost would have been high, wouldn't it?
The first one I think was in the 120 range, which is the same as this one. Which is funny because it looks like they spent more money on this one, but looking it up, I think they're very close in their budgets.
Oh no, the budget for Shazam was, the first one was 100 million. They made no money on this.
Nope.
Yeah.
On
They
the
had
first one.
So what I mean, they're similar in ranges. So that's the thing, is you can't make one of these superhero movies for under 100 to 120 million dollars. That's kind of the bottom line. We learned that in a few different cases now. So
well, with the types of stories they're telling, you can't do it for
exactly, like, unless they're talking about something that's lower level. Like, that's the thing, is even Batman shouldn't have cost 200 million to make. Right, Batman is a character that you don't need all the CGI shit for. It's not a Superman.
That is true. It's all the little gears and his little knifey things.
Well, and the reason why, like, something like Endgame cost so much is only 100 was probably spent on the movie proper. The other 200 million was spent on the actors.
True. That was very expensive from an acting perspective, wasn't it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, when you've got Paul Rudd making 8 million, I think what's her face made the same amount. Captain
Evangeline
Marvel,
Lilly.
Brie Larson, whatever. Well, I'm sure Evangeline Lilly probably got the same amount too. You're probably right, because they'd have to be fair across the board.
They amount for, on average, I think between 6 and 12 minutes of screen time in that 3-hour epic. So that's a pretty good.
Because I think they figured that, yeah, like what was it? Paul Rudd got paid like 1 point something million permitted on screen time for that movie or something was, or
Well, good
maybe
for
not quite
him.
$1 million, but
That's a great.
like, yeah. But Brie Larson got a pretty big payday. Of course, Robert Downey Jr. got the biggest one. Wasn't his in the $15 million or $20 million range for that or something like that? I can't remember.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Oh wait, RPR saying that he got 50. I didn't know if it was that much, but it could have been.
I remember hearing 50.
It could have been, yeah. So yeah, that's the biggest problem with some of these budgets, at least with some of these, and that's what Zaslav is trying to do, and that's where I think Henry Cavill and some of these other actors are not going to continue, is because they're going to cost too much. And he's going to be like, get actors in there that are not going to charge a fortune.
Yeah, because that's a problem with like many movie sequels. Eventually, the cast is what makes them unfeasible. One go-to example there is actually the much maligned and will never happen despite 50 announcements Star Trek 4
A
with
great
Chris
example.
Hemsworth again and Chris Pine. Because those movies, they were like budgeted and floated as big budget blockbusters from the moment that J.J. Abrams got involved with Bad Robot to reboot it for the big screen. It all got a big bluster treatment. But lo and behold, a couple of movies down the line, they performed with audiences pretty much exactly like the Star Trek movies of the 80s and 90s, only they cost 10 times as much to make. So the problem was the price. And when they've had like a script and everything that addressed that, then it was too late. It didn't help because the cast were already locked in for contracts where where the movie would cost more than it ever could cost before even a frame of footage was filmed in cast salaries alone, and they wouldn't budge and cut their rates. And lo and behold, no Star Trek 4.
Yeah, everybody who wasn't Zachary Quinto wouldn't budge.
Yeah, and you know what? We are maybe about less than 4 weeks away from another trade article about Star Trek 4 coming.
Yep.
So
We got to get
I
that
think we
video
better
re-edited.
prepare our generic video about this week Star Trek 4, insert name here.
Director left.
Yeah.
And they made a new announcement for insert director here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much what we should do with these videos from now on, is just
There've been
keep
more
releasing the
attempts at
same one.
sequel than there are sequels.
To be fair, when we've done like a mini documentary on the on each previous Star Trek 4, I have to admit they are the easiest videos I ever wrote, because I always just recycle the script of the previous one and just like
He's not
change
wrong.
some aspects and stuff.
And the last one I said, let's just start reusing let's just start reusing it. Yeah.
Yeah, and Tom can confirm how easy they were to like edit, because it was like, okay, we're just going to reuse that from over here, and here's what's new. So yeah, those videos were super easy to make.
Speaking of super easy, the easiest thing you could do right now is smash that hand by the way of the Cobra. Smash that like hand, he means. Sorry, that's what I meant to say. Thank you, Wintaro, for sending in €2 to say that. So yes, hit that like button if you haven't already, even if you don't think you'll like the Shazam trailer or like the Shazam movie. But yeah, that's the biggest issue with the whole Warner Brothers thing. And frankly, it's kind of funny because all the chaos that goes on over there, that's the one studio where we've actually kind of gotten to see the sausage being made at the same time, because that's the one place where they haven't been able to hide a lot of the losses, right? Because granted, Marvel was doing fine, but basically where the level that Marvel is at now is where the Snyder-verse had gotten us in the first place. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
they're looking at it in a sense that they have lost half the audience now. And when you have a Joker movie that performs the way it did, that's the whole thing, is these other movies should be performing similarly. When you've got one character like that, even a Batman movie should be able to do that. It just doesn't make any sense. And when you have BVS, there was no excuse. It should have been $1 billion hit, regardless. I mean, word of mouth destroyed that movie's box office. It's a situation where they have not made any fucking money on DC for what, 10 years now? 13, 14 years now? More than that? When was the last hit DC had? Technically,
probably
the Dark Knight series is what I was thinking.
Knight Rises would be the last financially successful one. Yeah, Yeah, Superman Returns would have been the other one had it not had the
Yeah.
expenses of the previous Superman film attempts rolled into it. But yeah, they've been kind of bombs.
People are saying Man of Steel, but I'd have to go back and actually look at the financials to see if that was really. I mean, it may have
Well,
been
the problem
financially
was
successful.
that
but-
I believe it was Jeff Robinov who was the head of DC at the time, and he even said in the trades, "We are expecting 1 billion on this movie. That is our internal threshold for success, based on the earlier movies. Is 1 billion," and it fell way short of that. I think Man of Steel. I don't know that it made it.
Well,
to
BBS,
700
yeah.
million.
I was gonna say BBS is the reason that I don't think Man of Steel made the money. That it was at least a disappointment, and Aquaman would be the only arguable one within there in the last.
It
even
made $1 billion.
It
Yeah,
did,
Aquaman
but
did build it.
I'd have to look at the budget too.
No, Aquaman's budget is like 210. James Wan was pretty controlled on that, but no, Superman, Man of Steel made like 680, I think. And it was like a 200 and some odd budget film, so it at best broke even if you want to do it financials that way.
Yeah, and the sequel is
And-
exceeding 250. I think it is at this point, from what I just read.
The thing is that because it did not perform the way Warner Brothers need to, that's when they needed to bring in the big guns, which is Batman. And then on top of that, the studio decided, if we really want to make sure we cross that billion, let's also bring in Wonder Woman as well. And they didn't cross the billion. That was a clear indicator that the approach to these characters was not selling them. It was actually being more damage to the characters than the characters themselves. And what ends up happening is they went for Justice League. They doubled down on the same tone and everything. And then midway through, or not so much midway through, but like 75% of the way through, they brought in Joss Whedon because he was available, and Avengers, was one of the biggest movies of all time in that period. So, and they wanted to try and get that for their franchise. Now, again, that also didn't work. So,
Well, we'll have to see how Shazam performs. I don't expect it to do any better than Black Adam
between
did.
350 and 400 worldwide, maybe.
It might do a little better, but not. I don't think it's going to do much better. I think it'll do less than the first one did.
Yeah.
To be honest.
And
with you.
just to finish off on Aquaman, I think that Aquaman 2 is going to lose them everything that Aquaman 1 made, and then some.
You're not wrong. Because that's the thing, is I don't even know if it really made them all that much to begin with. But yeah. They had not had a big run of hits, that's for sure. Outside of Wonder Woman and Aquaman and Joker, it's really questionable whether any of the films brought home any money. In fact, most of them probably lost money. We know for a fact Justice League lost money, and it still hasn't cleared because they added more money to that said budget. And yeah, that's what got us here to the James Gunn verse. So
Yeah. I mean, again, if any of those movies actually did make money, we would not have the James Gunn's Zaslav new direction of these heroes.
pretty
Very
much.
There's a reason they were able to sell that in.
But we'll see how it goes here, because I'm expecting some sort of address at some point here in the near future from James Gunn.
And in show
On his
business, the
future
winds can
plans.
change very, very quickly. It does.
Yep.
You could have 5 hits in a row, and then one disaster in the studio cuts you off at the knees.
They do.
So
They can.
This is why Script Doctor is right.
But here's the funny thing about that question, Paul, is we've been asked, God, for years, can Marvel fuck this up? When they were in the midst of their,
The peak.
winning streak. And we said, oh yeah, they can, but it's going to take more than one movie. Well, that has now happened, right? We have gotten to the other end of that, to where we have had, 6 or 7 or so Marvel projects in a row that just
All
have not
of
performed.
Phase 4, with the exception of
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man No Come Home.
Yeah,
Well, that's
so
because they're running under a different philosophical a view of what it is that they need to do. We're in unprecedented territory. I don't think at any time has Hollywood prior to this run on anything but capitalism. And now we've got this weird social agenda that is muddying the waters. And I would be very happy if it died, but it's not going to die anytime soon.
It'll be a while. I'm sorry to say.
Well, and that's the thing is we just talked about this the other day that Feige is, trumpeting the same thing that
I mean, look at
Iger
what
is, and that
Feige
is we're
just
doubling
said.
down on the bullshit.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah.
I mean, that's really the point. Now, where is that coming from? Does he really intrinsically believe that? Is it because Hollywood is just completely bent out of shape, where Mark Hamill can kind of sort of like J.K. Rowling, and then they dump on him so badly that he has to crawl away? I mean, this is a city living in fear based on a minority of people. It's just an insane place, and Kevin Feige is just feeding that nonsense.
Well, to quote another franchise, Kevin Feige, he lived as and stayed in the same place long enough to see himself become the villain.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you had his worm tongue right there the whole time too with what's her face, Laura
she's been there from the
Alonso.
very
Alonso.
Victoria Alonso's been there since day one.
Yeah, but I'm assuming she's been given a bigger voice. She's been one of the more prominent producers.
If you're there from the start, just like with Kathleen Kennedy, you work your way up with every success.
And I'm not saying she's all the problem, but she's a big part of the problem. Let's get back into some super chats here, and then we'll move on to our other topics, though. We got Mario Trillo who says, Andre, what are some good sword and sorcery books or series? Also, Tom, have a nice day. It seems you need some positive. It's been one of those mornings I woke up and I looked outside and I'm like, fuck my life. Why do I live where it snows? Then I remembered, my parents and all that stuff, Hail Midnight Such in the morning. Yeah.
Hey, listen, Wimpy boy, over to your right, you've got a Norwegian that's living in snowy territory, and two blokes below you, at least in this particular grid, who's living in Canada. And we know nothing else but this stuff. So quit your bitching.
There's this
There's nothing stopping you from moving to somewhere where the fucking wind doesn't hurt your face.
Or
actually,
wear a balaclava.
There is your own country's politics are preventing me from going to a place.
Well, technically you could, but you come in, you can't go back. Script, that's the thing. You got to get technical on that. From somebody who always does it to me, I'm doing it to you for once. You can, sir. You just can't go back for a while.
Move to South Beach.
I have to say that I kind of like living in a subarctic climate, which is the technical name for.
Yeah, but you'd run around naked in the snow, probably. That's the difference.
Well, but only when I have a sauna nearby. But
No.
Yes, I do. I'm not even joking.
I enjoy the season. It's something to look forward to.
I would be fine with just spring, fall, and summer. I don't need winter. Fuck winter.
I don't. Yeah, but it hasn't. Okay, well, up here, it hasn't been that brutal, actually.
No, this year hasn't been so bad, but this week has just been one of those weeks with me. It's just
Arizona. I can't see myself living in like 2 months of coolness and then 12 months of abject heat.
I thought the same way, Paul. And then when I spent that week down in Vegas, I liked it. I mean, I didn't like being outside so much, but compared to like what I deal with here in the summertime with the humidity, I liked it in comparison to the dry heat. To me, was nothing compared to the humidity.
It's a dry heat.
And I didn't mind that compared to the humidity. I would take 100, 105 degree dry heat over 90 to 95 degree humidity is my point.
Yeah, when I was in Vegas and all we did was run from one hotel to the other just to get into the air conditioning was brutal.
I spent some time outside. I'm not going to say I didn't. So, it was nice. I didn't hate it as much. Like to me, like there was a lot of people griping. I'm like, fuck, this ain't nothing compared to 95 in Wisconsin when it's humid as hell. Like you can literally feel the air pushing you down. Like,
yeah, you guys in the States, especially around Texas, had a unbelievably hot summer.
But I couldn't believe it because the one time we went out, it was like 110, I think it was, in Vegas. And I'm like, really? I'm like, I mean, yeah, I could feel that it's hot as fuck. but I wasn't like breaking out in insta sweat like I do here in Wisconsin. like,
Sure.
like you step outside the humidity and it's like insta sweat. You're wet from head to toe. Yeah, humidity and mosquitoes, exactly, Six. That's the other problem is the mosquitoes.
It's all the moisture that's coming out of the cheese in your region that's
It's
causing the
true.
humidity.
Yeah, you
It
got
is
caves
true.
full of cheese in your state.
Yeah, you got way too much
You
cheese.
stay the fuck out our caves. That's
All
our
I
cheese,
know is-
motherfuckers. Shit hits the fan. We got all the cheese. That's right.
All I know is that when we were driving through Australia in their winter and it was 42 degrees centigrade, gum trees were exploding as we were driving by them. So you try
Jesus.
that.
No, I don't know if I want to deal with that at all. But anyway, enough of the weather. Andre,
Yeah.
some sword and sorcery books for Mario.
Here's the thing. I'm not huge on like reading sword and sorcery that is not Robert E. Howard, for the simple reason that I read Robert E. Howard and I got spoiled. So like, Conan is my go-to when it comes to like sword and sorcery. Beyond that, I actually have to say Michael Moorcock's Elric, which is kind of like the inverse of Conan, but it's still really cool in its own right. And then obviously you already know the Game of Thrones books that would also be up there in that conversation. And I suppose, although I have never read them, so would the original Witcher books be. But beyond that, I can't give like any great recommendations beyond that. Sorry to say, like I'm mostly a fan of like sword and sorcery in the Robert E. Howard books, the movies and the games and the comics more so than other book series.
Save that
where I'm
question for when
totally-
Razor Fist is here. Razor Fist probably have some.
Yeah,
pretty
we'll
good
bring it
answers
up
to
when
that.
we get to Razor Fist next time.
I'm more of
Yeah.
a sci-fi guy, but I mean, if you're into games, then play Skyrim. It's got one of the best lore plots. It's got not best lore plot. It's got some of the best lore of any sword and sorcery, and does not feel like Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. There you go. Then we got Scott Rugels, if I'm saying that right, who says Hasbro is laying off 1,000. Stay strong, gamers. Yeah, Hasbro's been feeling the wrath of the fans recently, huh?
Yeah, and Google is laying off to 18,000, and Meta is laying off 10, and Microsoft is laying off 10. There's a lot of that going on.
Also here in Norway, like one of our electronics chains, the places where you buy TVs and stuff like that, they're laying off people. And all of these layoffs all across the board, that's a really bad sign for the economy going forward.
But we got jobs, Andre.
Yeah, I know. I saw those tweets too. And those tweets from like Brandon talking about how good everything is going. That to me, that seems to be deflection, trying to avoid panic because everything.
Well, no, the
is going
jobs
to
that he's
hell.
talking about is if you want to work part-time at McDonald's as a fucking janitor, maybe, yeah. There's plenty of openings there.
Do you think these companies are trying to get ahead of the wave, or they're reacting to being in the middle of it?
I think that depends on the company. I think there's less money to go around. What we're seeing is like ripple effects in the economy from everything just basically being artificially shut down, and now things aren't properly starting up again. People don't have the kind of money to spend on luxuries that they had before. You don't buy that extra TV. You keep that car a little bit longer. All of these things, they just lead to less money going around in the economy. And then you've had like these policies for the last few years with primarily the Brandon administration, but also other places just pumping money into the economy, which creates inflation. And then you get the hopelessness, and with the unemployment numbers we're seeing now, we're going to have stagflation inside of the year. Like we're about to do a remake of the 1930s where economy is concerned here. That's what I'm seeing here.
Yeah, so they're trying to get ahead of that.
I think they may be trying to get ahead of that because Hasbro laying off 1,000. I think they're doing that because their toys aren't selling.
Well, this is across, like you said, it's across the board. There's that. They've had all kinds of issues with getting things imported. That's another problem. So they haven't been able to.
Shortage.
Well, not just chips, but just plastic in general. Like there's been tons of their figures that have been delayed endlessly because they can't get them. Some things that they can't get right now. Half of it's the pandemic. The other half's the way the world is right now, and it has little to do with the pandemic. But let's face it. It doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on here. You got to admit shit's getting pretty bad. Like Andre may be a bit hyperbolic at the moment, but it won't be hyperbolic for long.
No, I'm not saying how it is right. I'm saying this is to come. Stagflation is coming. I mean, there's no turning back from that right now. And also, just to correct you a little bit, the pandemic has nothing to do with this. It's all the lockdowns. I mean, if you what you could have done with the pandemic. You could do that with what you're doing with all the people who are right now, shall we say, who are falling and can't get up again, which is happening in pretty huge numbers. No one's talking about it. You could have done that during the pandemic too, and life would have gone on as normal, just the same way as right now.
Yeah, we would have took a hit, but not nearly as hard of a hit. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was the lockdowns. That's what screwed up the economy.
Oh, I agree. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I was getting at. It's all the other political bullshit surrounding it and where we're at now. It's redonkulous. It's redonkulous. And they also found out that kids don't buy toys no more. That's another problem as far as the toy factor goes.
I think a big part is that many adults may not have the money to buy the toys.
Well, there's that, but the other side of it is that the adult collector market is your newer, larger, growing base of consumers, and if you're not bringing out shit they want,
and even if you are, I don't know how many are buying in the same ways that they did.
Oh, not nearly as much. Absolutely.
I think even there they are starting to be like more restrictive. That's kind of like what I'm saying. I see people are like spending less money across the board on everything, even in niche things, even with the niche toy collectors. Even they are going to be like a little bit more restrictive. All of that has ripple effects, and that's going to lead to people being fired, which again is going to lead to less money in the economy, which is going to lead to more people being fired, which is going to lead to less money in the economy, and then you're in the downward spiral, and that's where we are.
And the really bad news, which means there's going to be way more people coming onto this platform to be influencers and competing with us.
Well, that's what happened during the pandemic.
So that's that. I envision a story in the future where a shot from an office building window, 2-3 stories up, and every single person on the street are self-camming themselves as they're walking around.
I was just fired.
The only job in the future will be YouTube. That's it. We'll be done.
It's very dystopian.
That's a dystopian world there. We've never seen anything on the streaming channels of dystopian worlds, have we, Script?
No, I don't think
New idea right here, dystopian world.
Everyone staring at their phone, walking outside.
Well, this
if everybody's streaming, then
fun, but
if everybody's streaming, then who will watch the streams? Exactly, like that. That's kind of
who'll watch the streams.
Who watches the streamers?
Have a generation of kids that now grow up wanting to be influencers and YouTubers.
80% of kids under 13 in American high schools want to be influencers.
I'll tell you right now, I'm not that worried because yes, an influx happened during the pandemic, but I can only think of a handful of people who have been able to sustain that. Like even people like Brie Larson couldn't do it. Like look at her fucking channel.
Well, she came in hot and heavy, and she's got other things to do, like being a star.
Hey, keep your compliments to yourself, sir.
I think she's kind of cute. I still think she's cute. Skinny. She She has
No, but like
she has
even
no
if somebody
bomb.
like her couldn't make something last on YouTube, like it's trust us, it's not an easy gig. It's going to be an early death of me. I can tell you right now.
Well,
One way or
I
another.
hope you enjoyed the relatively few videos we made in January, because we'll be making up for that next month.
Exactly. Like there is no break, you know. So with that, let's keep moving on to the super chats here. We've got the Walt man who says, so for Andre, I forgot to say Susan Dolan has been a member for 13 months. I'm so sorry, Susan. There we go. Then we've got Walt man who says, so for Andre, the list of creditors for FTX was released. Sans individual investors and Disney and its subsidiaries are not on the list. Thoughts?
Yeah, I did see that. I would not expect Disney to have invested anything in the under the name of the Disney company directly. Typically, and again, I'm not saying that Kamran Pasha, because this, of course, is in reference to Kamran Pasha's FTX theory. And if it is true, and it might not be, it could just be a complete coincidence that FTX collapsed, and that's when they were in a real hurry to get rid of Bob Chapek. That could be a coincidence. I'm not saying that Kamran is 100% right, although his theory does fit under the data points. What I will say this, though, is that in my experience, these huge corporations, they are corporations because they have so many other companies under them. And the companies that we know of are the entertainment companies. So we know that ABC, well, that's an entity under Disney. Marvel Studios, that's a separate entity under Disney. It has like its own registry numbers and stuff like that. Those are the ones that we publicly know of. Now, I would not be surprised if Disney has an investment wing as well, which isn't, which doesn't have Disney in the name. If you go and look for something that has Disney in it, or that begins with Walt, you might not find it. Maybe you just have something that's called, give me something Disney-ish. Like,
Buena Vista is the distribution company that's owned by Disney.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. So they're going to have like another entity under them that has nothing to do with Disney in the name. And that company could very well be there. It's just that we don't know that that's a Disney company, because we on the outside don't have access to the entirety of Disney's corporate structure. We only know what's out there in the public, and what we know is obviously Disney. But Disney aren't required to list every single thing that they own, every little company under company under company. And also, it could be like that they have like a separate wing which isn't directly under Disney. It could be a subdivisory under something else. Like, for instance, it could be something that's under ABC. Under ABC, for instance, they have something called ABC, like ABCDEF investments, for instance. So that's why I'm not completely convinced that there is no Disney connection there at all, just because of I know how complex such corporate structures are. I mean, that's one of the reasons why Enron were able to get away with all the stuff that they did, because they had an entity under an entity under an entity under an entity, and that's how they were able to cover up everything that was going on there. I would be shocked if, honestly, I would be really shocked if Disney had like major investments directly under the Disney brand, as opposed to under one of their million assets and umbrellas. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that. I don't think that means anything.
He should be put in some kind of what do the Americans do when they get all the senators together to grill someone? What's that called? A Senate Judiciary Committee. Mr. Iger, this company, Blisney, that's invested in FTS, nothing to do with Disney? No, we who's Blisney? Never heard of it. It's okay.
Yeah, but then first he has to be called in, and then there has to be reason to suspect corporate
True.
malfeasance. And so far, until someone reports it, there isn't. So there's not going to be any hearings of any kind until there is any kind of suspicion of that.
But there was malfeasance in this entire FTX thing.
Oh, yeah, tons of it. But Disney isn't the priority, especially if their main corporate entity hasn't been involved with it.
Mm.
If it's under one subdivision, which is under another subdivision, which is under a third subdivision, well, then the parent company goes scot-free, doesn't it? Especially if the only connection there is in shares.
They're so sneaky.
So yeah, that's my thoughts. Just that the name of Disney wasn't in the list of creditors, that don't mean anything. That's not any proof for or against. We still have the exact same hypothesis. I believe even Valiant Renegade made this point in his video. Like, I listened to that in the background when I was driving today. And then he was like, when asked, like, should it be under a subdivision? His answer was like, maybe. And then we wouldn't see it.
It also excludes individual investors, so some of the board members or higher ups at Disney might be on that list as well. There's always the possibility. It's too early to say for certain at this point.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, no, that's my thoughts. That doesn't mean anything. And with that, let's move on to the next super chat here. Horseradish Power says Script Doctor is right. The brain swap mad science program is called Scooby. Oh boy. Oh, and Velma has turned Fred into a male feminist. Jeepers. So yeah, it just gets better and better. And Chris Goodman says for $1.99, anyone watch Briscoe County Jr. from 1993? Underrated. That's the one with Bruce Campbell, isn't it?
Oh yeah, the Western.
Yeah, it's fun. It was sadly only one season, but yeah.
Just like his Jack of all trades.
Yeah. I only saw a few episodes. I enjoyed those.
I remember the name. I probably will be getting to it in my TV guide review. I'm at
it's in the 90s, yeah.
I'm in the 80s right now. I have most of the 90s, so I'll be getting to them eventually.
It was a very ambitious show for the time, and sadly, it just didn't last long.
Yeah, I think it was only one season.
Yep.
Yeah. And then MacLeod says for $5, happy weekend to all. Paul, your music video is a guilty pleasure. And Tom, for future reference, are you a coffee drinker, and what is your t-shirt size?
T-shirt size, usually 5X. As far as coffee, not really. It just doesn't get along with me. And I'm not a big fan of the taste of it, so I usually drown it out in so much shit that I might as well not be drinking coffee.
You're just drinking crappy coffee.
Yeah, basically. Well, I'm not a fan of that aroma, that taste. I mean, the aroma's okay, but I'm not a coffee freak, never have been. Just not my thing. Nor do I care for tea either. But hot cocoa is cool. But yeah, t-shirt size, I'm a big ass motherfucker.
What's the official drink in Norway, Andre, between coffee and tea?
Coffee, black.
Okay.
And depending on how north you are, with some vodka in it.
Vodka and coffee. Well, that's interesting.
I mean, in it's a city called Trondheim, and their national drink, or regional drink, is called karsk, and that's coffee with vodka.
I could see schnapps and coffee and up there, but not.
Yeah, that'll work too. Like, it doesn't have to be vodka; it just has to be some strong spirit.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, that's interesting.
So yeah, it's like some proper moonshine that will also do. I mean, that may be the preferred choice, actually.
I think we're coffee drinkers here in Canada over tea, and I think even the UK. Even though they have a reputation for being British tea drinkers, I think coffee is a bigger deal. We need to have a Brit on board to confirm this.
Oh, we can reach out to Mr. H, hear what he has to say.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like I once learned that when the British have tea, the tea is actually an optional extra.
An extra with what? Crumpets?
Yeah, exactly. It's like all the other stuff that makes the tea the tea.
Ah,
So
yes.
the tea, when they have tea, that's actually a little meal.
It's a biscuits, yes, and
Yeah.
jammy things and stuff. Yes.
Yeah.
I've had it.
And then Maverick Christian says for $2 on heights. Sly is 5'10. Arnold is 6'2.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to break your spirits. That's if you're looking at IMDb or any of the trades, they're not reporting their real heights. Hollywood does that. For years, you can find references that Tom Cruise was 5'9" to 5'11", but he's actually more like 5'6", 5'7". Sly is 5'8". Arnold is 5'11". You can
that
actually
sounds more accurate. That sounds more like it to me.
Yeah, you can actually. You can figure this out by watching Saturday Night Live episodes when they guest on the show. So, for instance, Arnold Schwarzenegger guest on with Kevin Nealon and Dana Carvey doing their pump up guys, and when he walks right in between them, you can get a very good sense of what their height is, because Kevin Nealon's like 6'3", 6'4", and Arnold Schwarzenegger's a good 4 inches shorter than him, and he's also only a couple inches taller than Dana Carvey. So. And there's no room for him to walk on an apple crate in those sketches. Same thing for those types of. It's just the way that they do it to advertise that they're bigger stars in life than they are in person. It's a weird thing.
That's why Tom Cruise won't let anybody run next to him either.
Has Tom Cruise ever been on SNL?
Years ago, yeah.
I think he did like a walk on for a bit, but. No, I know from Tom Cruise because there's a couple of stand-up comics that worked with him. One is like Al Lupel, and Al Lupel has a whole bit where he's taller than Tom Cruise, and as a result, that's why he's beautiful.
No, you're right. He has never been on. Yeah, he's never been on. Neither is Mark Wahlberg, Will Smith, or Leonardo DiCaprio, for that matter. Interesting.
Wahlberg. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I can't believe Marky Mark hasn't been. Yeah.
Carol Burnett hasn't.
That's a shame. We need to start a campaign like they did for Betty White to get Carol Burnett on there.
We've seen this post before.
Did we? Okay.
Yes,
okay, we got this.
Not that they don't deserve it a second time.
I just hit the one that was on top. Amplify Create says, "Oh, Paul, I admit I wasn't sure you were a good fit here, but now I've fallen for you. And yes, I am gay, but lean right in both ways and hate the LGBTQ movement. Bring back Thatcher."
Wow. Oh. So I want to know why you didn't think I'd be a good fit here, because I'm so manly? Thanks.
We'll go with
that. Well, yeah, we'll go with that. We'll go with that one.
We'll go with that.
I'll take that.
Yeah.
Montaro says, so Hemsworth
Stroop-waffled Henry.
Stroop-waffled Henry. Well, maybe, but I don't think so. We'll see. Culture Casino is here. Why aren't you on the show, my friend? It says, not at all keen on Hemsworth replacing Cavil. I don't think it's true. I think they'd be announcing it from the rooftops if it was. Max Steele says, damn it, Tom, you made me spit my drink out. Well, I'm not buying you another one. That's your own fault. Should have kept it in your mouth.
And yep.
Stephanie Janicek's in the house. Hopefully you are recovering. She says, hey guys, waving with one good arm. Yes, hopefully you're doing well, and they're pumping you full of the good stuff.
Yes, take care of yourself, Stephanie, and wish you a speedy recovery.
Yes, indeed. And then we got Amplify Create again. He says, oh, and don't worry, Paul. When I say I've fallen for you, I platonically think you're effing brilliant. Your Twitter posts are so rational and funny. Please go and perform a coup at Davos. Is that how you say it? Davos?
Yeah. You know, that's where the real life Arne Stavro Blofeld is talking about how they're going to rule the world right now.
Well, thank you very much, Amplified Crete. I very much appreciate your post. And yeah, I need to go to Davos. Just to hang out with Greta.
How dare you? Jim Watari has been a member for a year, and he gifted 10 Midnight's Edge memberships. Holy crap. Thank you so much, Jim Watari. That is amazing. Then we got Karina in the house. He was an actor before he became a rapper. I think she's talking about Drake.
Marky Mark.
Yeah,
Oh,
no, this is Drake. This is from earlier. He never said he was from the hood. He also is Jewish and promotes that in his videos and songs.
Yep.
Yeah.
I like his music. I'm sorry.
It's
No,
way
you can.
beyond my time.
He never said he was from the hood. Oh no, he's alluded to it many times. I've been in rooms with him where he said that, and we all laughed, and he got a little.
So he's the
irked by
John Peters of Canadians?
that. No.
I'm from the hood. I'm from the streets. That's how I know Batman was going to be a hit.
No,
That's an actual quote
John
from
Peters
him.
has better hair.
Well, yeah, because he's a hairdresser.
Yeah.
And he was very funny on SNL. The guy's got good chops. He's a funny guy.
No, I'll give him that.
Oh no, Drake can act. I think he can act better than he can rap. But
Yeah. And we got Dr. Shadow Dragon, who's been here for 4 months and says, "Good morning, Mead. My 25th birthday is today." Well, happy birthday.
Happy
Great
birthday.
to spend it with you, Tom. Any chance to just not get Bat Tom, but a Congo? WDW Pro video on Star Wars Identity was spot on. All right, well, we'll get to the latter part here in a second. So you don't want Bat Tom. We got to dust off Frankie, huh?
Yeah, WDW Pro did a great piece of speaking on Skyrim on what's the better, most attractive property, and does Netflix really have Skyrim, and would they be willing to dump The Witcher to then surround the wagons around Skyrim? Which I would say yes. Whatever Skyrim is doing, whatever Witcher is doing now, it's lost whatever cachet it's had, especially with the loss of Cavil. I'm not looking forward to season 3. There was a reason, obviously, why he left the show. And Skyrim looks very attractive. Looks like there's a battle over Skyrim between Paramount and Netflix. And that was a great show by WDW Pro. As a huge Skyrim fan, I've got half my life invested in it.
All right, I'm here. What? Okay.
No Skyrim players in this group here of the 4 of us? I'm the only one?
What about a rim job?
Yeah.
Skyrim isn't on the Mega Drive.
Is what?
Skyrim is not on the Sega Mega Drive.
That's so you don't play it.
See, that's the problem with you fucking nerds. You got a Sega Mega Drive instead of a sex drive. Okay. I'm Frankie, and I'm here to say Congo to somebody. Who am I supposed to say it to? Oh, Dr. Shadow Dragon. Congo! Happy birthday! Get drunk! Have fun! Find some cocaine.
I got an arrow to the knee. Anyways, that's a Skyrim meme.
Happy birthday.
I'm going to expect Skyrim as part of your next online gameplay script, Doctor.
Oh, okay. I've never played Skyrim before, so.
Oh, what a game! Holy smokes! It's spectacular.
I remember when I was I had a part-time job in college at Blockbuster. I went back after high school, and there was always these 2 girls that would rent the Elder Scrolls Skyrim thing like every week. So that was for the Xbox 360, I think.
I played it on PlayStation, but I think it was available.
Yeah.
I played it again actually fairly recently.
Ooh, okay. Cool. Maybe I'll check that out. Yeah.
Oh, it's I think it's one of the best games ever.
And we got Granite Man here from Canada as well, and says when he says Shazam should turn into Trans Man. Don't give him ideas. That's going to be the next thing. It'll be Shatram or whatever instead. Shatran.
Well, I mean, Bounding Into Comics has said that they're replacing Adam Warlock with a female Eve Warlock. So,
in the comics, I heard, or something like that.
Yeah. Everyone's being changed.
Yeah. Action Comics here and says, Chato, script, ever hear of the great Canadian maple syrup heist?
Yes.
Where Canada's strategic maple syrup reverse was stolen.
Reserve.
Jesus Christ, I can't read this morning.
What, there's such a thing?
Yeah, they didn't get that I could read. No.
So there's also a flood in Quebec many years ago that wiped out a number of maple syrup trees that we got our maple syrup from. And I remember reading about this in school. This is part of our history class, oddly enough. And yeah, there again, people, we love our maple syrup. It's
Well,
very good.
Quebec actually supplies some enormous percentage of the world's maple syrup.
Yeah, like
We have a Canadian maple syrup in Norway too. Just saying, because we don't have our own, but we have.
Well, he
ours.
goes
Heat it up and pour it on the snow, and then it solidifies, and then you suck on it. It's great. It's a nice little treat.
Mhm.
But they did find the stolen barrels.
Well, he goes on to say, they didn't get everybody and never found the money. Any suspects?
Yeah, they got a good.
They
I
got
think
a
they
lot.
got them.
There wasn't much money they could find because they didn't sell enough.
No,
of
they
it.
didn't sell it. They took it to another warehouse and just held it there, and they got caught.
Yeah, I mean, you can't recover money if there's no actual money involved. They just recovered the barrels, a lot of the barrels. I think maybe only a couple they got rid of, but yeah, it's a very comedic premise of a heist, but it's a very serious thing because it's several millions of dollars of syrup.
Why haven't you written the movie yet then?
We're working on it.
About
Yeah,
fucking time. Jesus, I just heard about this idea. Come on.
Bob and Doug McKenzie and the Great Maple Syrup Heist.
We'll catch him, eh?
Do it like The Mouse That Roared, where it's an accidental heist, where everything that they did wrong actually is what led them to be able to steal it.
Yes.
Everybody was so incompetent in terms of protecting the property that everything that they did wrong was right. That's how you do it.
Yep.
And sorry that I leaked out Stroopwafel Script Doctor. Now it's being used regularly here as a substitute for the F word. Sorry. I hope you're not mad at me.
Oh no, I'm not mad. That's hysterical. That's great. It's like, how many more syllables can we add on to
That's right.
On the F word.
That's right. Pick the longest word possible as the substitute for the F word to make it difficult. Yep. So that's it. Thanks, ActionCom. I hope that was worth your $10.
And since it's ActionCom, thanks for the time codes for each episode, because that's ActionCom. So all hail to my ActionCom.
All hail.
And with that, let us move on to the next topic here, or let's do a couple more super chats, and then we'll move on to the next topic. Amplify Create says for £4.99, and finally, Cavil is much sexier than just about anyone in the universe. Yeah, there's plenty who will agree with that. And history will always remember bad robot ruin everything, says for 35 South African nuns. Have we reached a point where audience antagonism is going to filter out? Studios just can't afford the damage they're inflicting on themselves anymore. And this is going to take us right into the next topic as well. But before then, gentlemen, what say you? Is the audience starting to be so tuned against all the properties that we used to love, our Star Wars, our Star Trek, our Harry Potter, all of those things, that the studios will have to do something? Like, how long can, for instance, Disney go on outright antagonizing the Star Wars fan base? How long can this business model persist? Mr. Chato, what say you?
I think the cat is out of the bag on all of this, because it's not just the studios, it's filtered to all the actors. You've got the director of Till and everybody voicing their own little bitchy excuses for their own failures, and it's just nonstop, and people are bitching at each other, and you can't mention J.K. Rowling without a whole group of people getting on top. It's the cats. I mean, the barn's left the cows left the barn. I mean, whatever euphemism you want to use. And as far as the studios directly attacking the fans, perhaps that's going to abate. But now the actors are doing it. So from that perspective, I don't think there's any difference. I don't see this changing. It's only going to get worse. This is social media. Welcome to social media.
Script,
And
what say
egos.
you?
He
That's
had
what
to
I'm-
step
so,
away
yeah.
to take a phone
Well,
call.
Tom, then,
So,
what say you?
have we reached a point where the audience antagonism is going to filter out? The studios just can't
Well,
afford to do
basically,
it.
how long can they continue to antagonize the audience?
Not long. We're seeing a lot of that across the board where they're being told, leave the fucking fans alone. The one who's really teetering right now has got to be James Gunn. But otherwise, we've been hearing that even at Disney, they've been told to back the fuck off. So
have they? Okay.
a little bit. I mean, if you haven't noticed, there hasn't been a lot of people on that side of the aisle really on the Disney side of things being antagonistic. In fact, even Pablo Hidalgo had a semi-decent back and forth with Valiant Renegade and those guys not too long ago. So, I mean, seems to be a bit of a change in the temperature of the water. Plus, there's so much stuff I can't get into politically going on right now that I think there's going to start to be a change in that.
But they don't
period,
even have any
but-
product to bitch about. That's the other thing.
Well, I mean, they could be going out after people with Velma, but a lot of that's falling on deaf ears because that's one of those things where everybody's united behind it now. Kind of saw the same thing with Lord of the Rings recently. So, I mean, I think we're getting to that point where you can't keep bullying the audience into liking your bullshit.
But DC was not the worst offender. It was really Disney, Marvel, Star Wars.
Well,
Yeah,
with
they are the worst
DC,
offender.
what you had was an outside force. That's the problem. You have the Snyderites, and we're talking about the worst of them, not all of them.
Right, but that's not the studio.
No, it's not. But
Sony was bad with Ghostbusters.
oh yeah, that was ground zero pretty much, or at least
Probably.
patient zero, whatever you want to call it. As far as like, well,
Wuhan.
technically F4, but like really that's where it kicked off and became a where we all kind of started to realize what
Or
the fuck
as
was
we
going
say,
on here.
it didn't begin with Ghostbusters, but that's where the playbook was perfected. It's the term that
Precisely,
we
yeah.
always use.
But
And
as
how
far
long
as
they can do it? Well, the answer is simple. They can do it for as long as they can afford to do it. Same with anything. As long as there's someone there in the other end that keeps on funding it, that's how long it's going to continue. So we see that the places where they have to make money, that's where it's stopping. And Kamran Pasha, he actually leaked some documents on his Patreon that you all should go support, which indicated that if Pablo Hidalgo indeed will be fired, it is the disaster it links to the fan community because he's just pure toxic. That will be the main reason why. Because he's a walking PR nightmare.
Well, there's been some really lousy PR around Daredevil.
Yeah.
And there's
absolutely.
been some pushback on that already.
But that's only now when we are here. Like we've actually covered this this Christmas when we had Adam Korelik on. How already then and even before we knew some of the writers for Daredevil, and how there's multiple red flags on that thing just in who they have writing it, which tells us there ain't no way that series is going to be anywhere near as good as it was on Netflix. But here's the question, though. Will they go out of their way to antagonize the audience the way that they did with She-Hulk? Because that's like one of the examples here, where the whole series was basically all about flipping off the fans.
Well,
Will
I
they
don't
do
think
that?
I don't think they're
That's
going to have that inside of the show unless they have characters that are supposed to be representative of the fans, like they did in She-Hulk. I wouldn't wouldn't put it beyond them. That seems to be the new Russian. We are the new Russians. That if you want to have a bunch of a bad bad people, then it's going to be toxic fans.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's going to be the raison d'etre of Daredevil. But again, it just seems like Daredevil's not smelling particularly good, and they're already pushing back on it. So I don't think they're going to stop. They're the only way to stop it is to actually make good product. But they seem to have a problem with that.
They do indeed.
And you're right. I heard about the writers who are involved with the show, and it just does not bode well for the show. It's depressing.
Very much so. When like one of the writers is an expert in gender and racism and all of those things. Yeah, no, that's
on my IMDb bio. That's what I put first, because there's nothing more important as a creative person to be gender and something.
So yeah, not looking too much forward to Daredevil on Disney Plus. That I think is going to be a debacle, and we haven't heard anything more about John Bernthal reprising the Punisher, because what we did hear was that he's not doing that unless they treat the character right. We haven't heard anything since, which tells me by now that he may not be coming back for the Punisher, who they changed pretty drastically in the comics anyways. So yeah, good times to be a Marvel fan. But speaking of Marvel, before we move on to our next DC topic, Big Daddy MRI sent us a huge super chat for $49.99. Thank you. This is to help keep the lights on. Thanks for great shows and commentary. Oh, well, thank you. That is a huge help, and we really, really appreciate that. And we couldn't do this without you guys watching and without you guys supporting us. So thanks to everyone. But we're not completely done with comic book movies yet, or even DC comic books, because Tom, we have another story here. Are you ready to bring that up on screen?
I can, I guess.
Yeah, I put it in the private chat here, and it actually does tie a little bit into Shazam, because Shazam has some links to Black Adam. And Black Adam is a movie that was trashed by original Blade star Stephen Dorff, who you will call was the villain in the original Blade, but he's not too keen with all of these modern comic book movies. Like, he was pretty scornful towards Marvel's attempts at rebooting Blade, and that attempt has probably fallen flat on its face. And he also referred to Black Adam as garbage that no one will remember. Now, these are harsh words for a movie that came out so recently, starring The Rock, who is a far bigger star than him. Mr. Chato, why do you think that Stephen Dorff would speak so degradingly on such a movie that has to be an open wound to Dwayne Johnson still?
Well, that's an interesting point. I don't know Stephen Dorff. What other things did he do that I might know? I mean,
he is kind of like a B-list actor at best. I mean, his biggest claims to fame would be like things like Blade.
So what would cause him?
Judgment Night.
Okay, so let's just say that when he like sticks it to Dwayne Johnson, he's definitely punching up.
Yeah. So was he drunk? I mean, what is the point? I don't know.
I think so. He's trying to become relevant again. That's the thing, is he hasn't done anything of relevance in forever.
So I mean, he's right. I don't think Black Adam is going to become Star Wars, any of the Star Wars, even the bad ones. So I mean, as pleasant as a movie as it was, but I'm interested in his motivation. What does he think he's going to get out of it? How does it help him? If the Hollywood cognoscenti didn't like Black Adam, does this get him more work with that group? Maybe that's the motivation. He's trying to get into their good graces. He doesn't want to work with Zaslav. Now, although Blade was a DC product, right?
No, Marvel.
Blade? Okay.
Yeah,
It's
oh, yeah.
Marvel.
Yeah,
Okay,
but
sorry.
New Line just happened to have the rights to it at that time.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
It gets so confusing. Am I required to know every single property of every single label?
Yes, you must know everything. There's
I will
no
have to
exception.
leave now.
And you must remember every single name.
It's so confusing.
No, you know what? The beauty is that your understanding is actually far, far greater than that of most of the executives who are greenlighting any of this stuff.
Well,
And
they just don't have my
take
experience.
is far more informed than many of theirs, especially those that greenlight actively going after the fans.
Now, was Steven part of the latest failed version of Blade?
No, just the first one, the really good one.
Right. So again, I think the detective work is, why is he commenting? In fact, you could also go as far as to say, why is he commenting on anything? That's so weird. CBR must be having a really slow news day.
Yeah, well, actually, they picked it up from Variety, who have like a bigger story with him. But of course, they highlighted him throwing shade at The Rock, which is something that the original story didn't do. But it's not too far behind, because it says that the original title here is Original Blade star Stephen Dorf is sick of Marvel's worthless garbage. He mocks the MCU's Blade. It says we already did it and made it the best, in which he is not wrong. And we see what happened with Marvel's own attempts at rebooting Blade. Hint, hint, they failed, and it's going nowhere fast. And then it was just like an off remark that, oh yeah, DC sucks too. But most of his ire was directed at Marvel, actually. So I'm guessing that he already must know that he's not going to be invited back for the Blade reboot, even if it does
that
happen.
could be it.
And maybe that is why he's pissed. Maybe his agent reached out and said, so this is just me speculating.
I like it.
Maybe his agent reached out to Marvel and said, hey, let's give my guy a cameo. And they said, no, fuck your guy. And then he went on this tirade.
Okay, so that would entirely be within so that would be completely within the realms of an actor's ego. I mean, I think that's a very good summary. He didn't get anything in the new Blade, so now he's just sort of
therefore it sucks. I think that if he had been in the new Blade, he would have been far more forgiving of it. If he had a role in the MCU, he would have been far more forgiving of that too. But he doesn't, so he isn't. And then, oh, by the way, Black Adam sucks too. And I think the reason that CBR chose to highlight that is because of the Shazam trailer. But I don't blame them, because it is a little bit more clickbaity. Makes it more personal in a way.
I think you've hit the nail on the head, Andre.
Well, if no one else has anything more to say, let's do a few more of these super chats before we move on here. Quest Lacey says for $9.99, I honestly think they needed to start a clean slate and stick to one continuity. They want to run 2 Batman iterations at the same time. Peacemaker is still Snyder-verse, same old Warner Brothers-ish. So yeah, that is a fair point right there.
At the same time, we don't know about the whole 2 Batman thing yet for sure. Because Zaslav flat out said they're not going to have 4 Batman. And Reeves James Gunn has already said that the Reeves verse will not meld with his. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
I have a hard time believing we'll have a DC universe without a Batman in it.
Yeah. But I'm also confused by the continued existence of the Batverse, because to me, all of that is another live-action Batverse that is competing with James Gunn's one, so I keep it around. But we shall see what James Gunn wants to do, and until he announces it, and he'll only announce part, us on the outside, we won't really know anything of what's going on. And then Teague says for $5, Andre, who do you think should direct the Mortal Kombat sequel, I guess? Gareth Evans, Lord and Miller? Also, should their main focus be on making Cole a great character? Now, Cole in the first or the previous Mortal Kombat, this was the guy who turned out to be Scorpion's descendant, right?
Yeah.
I think they should focus on moving on from him because he sucked. And as for who is to direct it, well, someone who likes the game's mythos and who has the talent to make it hopefully a better movie than the previous
Aren't they
one.
already in the midst of it?
Yeah, I hope so. I know that a sequel eventually was announced, but I don't know how far along they are. I just thought that they took forever considering the inherent potential in it, because those movies can be made on the competitive cheap. So what's taking so long? As for Gareth Evans, Lord and Miller, hell yeah, give them all a Mortal Kombat movie. I mean, it's a big franchise. So for the next one, well, that depends on exactly which story they're going for. But I wouldn't mind seeing all of them have a stab at it. I'm less interested in the director as much as them just doing it right, which means fairly respectful, fairly brutal, and with a little bit of fun.
And the first one, I really enjoyed the first Mortal Kombat movie.
Are you talking about the more recent one or the
previous
1995
one, right?
one?
The 1995 one.
Okay, because he's talking about this. He's now talking about the sequel to the one which came out like 2 years ago.
Ah.
To the reboot.
Yep. Which I enjoyed it, but I do obviously see its flaws. And like, Script Doctor had access to the original version of the script, and I have to say it was much better. And the original ending was better too. Because in the original ending, he just becomes Scorpion, which makes a lot more fucking sense. In this sense, they just created a brand new character with literal plot armor. And that I can't argue with anybody, because everything else outside of that aspect of the movie, I liked. Like, I liked that they got most of the designs seemingly, in line. I agree that, yeah, we didn't get to see a tournament per se in this movie, but I also know and can tell they're setting it up for multiple sequels. So they're just setting this whole thing up right now, setting up the universe, the rules, and all that business. But script, you also brought up, like, there was business with, like, the whole symbol and stuff like that, and other things that were changed from the original script from the Wonder Woman 84 writer, if I'm not mistaken, it was, you said?
Yeah.
I think he's on the phone still, but yeah, that was the case.
Yeah.
From my memory.
He did say that. And he was right.
So there were some silly things that were changed, and I'm just like, why? Because it made it worse. And that was the biggest thing, was at the end, Cole just became Scorpion instead of him just being his own thing. Which to me would have made more sense. He's just, carrying on the legacy kind of thing. The bloodline.
Yeah, I think that at the earlier drafts, he was supposed to be Scorpion. And instead, he became like his own thing. So I would say that
yes,
you just push him to the sideline and you find like a new protagonist, because he wasn't that great. I
don't know, Neon. Something happened to my computer overnight. All of a sudden now this morning, Yahoo is my main search engine thing, and I have not downloaded anything, changed anything in the last 48 to 24 hours. I have no idea. And I can't even stop it from being my main bookmark page or what. But I'm very, when it comes to this tech shit, I'm horrible at it. It's like the older I get, the worse I get. It's sad, but yeah.
In other words, Tom is saying he needs a new computer.
Yeah. Quest lazy though. Yeah. We'll have to see how this goes. And that was this one we were on already. But as far as the Cole character goes, yeah, that's the sad part. Gunstar1 says, I would recommend Elric of Melonbone. Yes.
Melonbone. Yeah, that's actually one of my recommendations too. That would be Michael Moorcock, which I did recommend.
Yes. Kenneth LaRock says Steven Erickson's Malazan, Book of the Fallen, another Canadian. Okay, so this is when we were talking about sword and sorcery.
Sword and sorcery book recommendations. Yep. I'm taking notes here too. I'd have to think about it because I know that Roy Thomas, he actually did swipe some really cool stories for the Conan series that he did for Marvel in the 70s. That's like one of the reasons why it was so good, because he went and he scoured all other kinds of sword and sorcery books that were in the shelves at the time, and then he went to deal and he took their stories and he replaced the lead with Conan, which is why his Marvel run of the comics has been unparalleled ever since, because it was just so pure sword and sorcery, because he went with the best of the books, and that's what you'll find in the Conan comics. But yeah, I'd have to look for some of those, the original sources there. And then we have a question for me from Positronic Hypersonic, who says, "Hey Andre, I tweeted you recently, but you didn't reply." I think you may mean you tweeted me recently, but I didn't reply. Well, that's because I suck at Twitter, and if you tweet something at me, you're going to have to give me a few days at the very least to get back to you, because I just suck at Twitter. Also, you never responded to my response to your response to my response to your video about the Batman movie being woke. Oh, it's you. All right. Yeah, well, actually, I did respond to you several times over, but I only have so much time to play around debating. So yeah, that would be the end of that. Then I gave you the time I had, then I had to move on to the next video or the next live stream or what have you. That's the name of the game, being a content creator. I can't spend all my time in comment threads. And then JWT6577 says for $5, "No one will watch the streams because civilization is going under. The dystopia is about to move into the non-fiction category." Yeah, wow. Mr. Chato, what say you? Are you looking forward to living in dystopia? I think everyone is.
I think he stepped away. I live in dystopia already. It's called Wisconsin.
I was speaking into my mic endlessly muted. No, I live in my fortress of solitude. I don't talk to anybody, so I don't worry about my nonfiction world is in my head.
I have to, like you say, that when the lockdowns and everything happened, I kind of like felt that this is dystopia and we are now living in the post-apocalypse, and I thought it was very disappointing because I was kind of like expecting everyone to dress like Wes in Mad Max and drive around roaming almost naked, looking for the gasoline or something like that. But then I remembered, hey, I live in a post-Arctic climate, so if civilization has to come to an end, I'd rather it be this way. Yeah, no, and especially for those of us that's been like reading Judge Dredd growing up, it's all coming true, isn't it? Like all the movies, I'm not going to say they were warning us, but there definitely were like some trends that just continued into
I think
life.
the big difference is that we worked within several, let's say, circles of influence before we had our family, and then we would leave the family to go to work, let's say, and then we had our work family, which had its own dynamics, but you're still dealing with people on a human level, and then maybe you'd go out to the mall, and then that would be a little bit more disconnected. But now you've added a very dystopian social media component where people are not willing to meet halfway on any topic. And people seem to be enjoying this Roman Colosseum of bullshit online, and I can't see that being particularly good with their psyche. And now they're going to work, and a lot of places are being engineered with diversity, inclusivity, equity, leadership that completely puts aside equality of opportunity. So now you're going to be building a whole office full of resentful people. There's not a lot of good that's happening out there. Going to a movie is still a wonderful thing, and maybe that's going to be our savior.
Unless that movie decides to treat you like trash and talk down to you, say that you're evil.
But here I am. I'm hoping for more Top Gun Mavericks than the other.
Exactly. I will say that you raised some interesting points, but I think that you missed one really big one, though. Because, you mentioned the social media, but all of that actually is means to interact with others. And I don't think that the streams are going anywhere. If anything, I think that more people will turn to the streams because civilization is going under or changing or being reset or what have you. And I think a big reason for that is that we can no longer trust the mainstream media. We can no longer trust the entertainment media complex. And I think more and more people are seeing that and becoming jaded because of it. When they see things around them, but the news, they turn and they watch their CNN, they watch their NBC or their BBC with your kid, whatever you have in Canada, whatever we have in Norway, Sweden, where have you. It's very uniform what is covered there, and it's very little of what people see actually happening around them. Like, for instance, there was a video that's gone viral about someone associated with a major pharma company that very much so admitted to this company associated with pharma doing research in which the products that they work with gained some level of function. And
I saw that.
You would think that this would be the main story on CNN, on NBC, across the board, worldwide. 10 years ago, it would have been.
And why isn't it now?
Scandal of Enron-like proportions, only 1,000,000 times worse. And it isn't anywhere.
That's a staggering video. If it's true.
Of course it's true.
It's unbelievable. I don't know why that isn't the #1 story right now.
That's exactly what I mean. And there's so many things like that. And I think that is a far, far bigger thing. Just that level of gaslighting, that level of don't trust your eyes, ain't nothing to see here. Move along. And that, I think, is far, far worse. But that's also why people are going to go to the streams, because that's where you have authenticity. Even if we, courtesy of the platform, can spell out straight what we're talking about. But I'm sure most people will catch on to it anyway.
My bigger concern is that people are eventually even going to avoid useful news online and just sit there and go through TikTok and shorts. And
that's the whole point with demoralization. Once you no longer know what's true, you just tune out completely, because when you are presented with actual news, you can't separate that from all of the lies.
Because the interfaces to both those applications are completely addicting. 15 seconds worth of doggies licking cows. And next. Jordan Peterson destroys leftist something. Next. It's unbelievably addicting. I think we're going to have everyone just doing TikTok and shorts. That's it. That's all they'll be watching.
Well, I think there's a difference in people. I don't think everyone is going to do that.
I have to say everyone. As a pundit, I have to say things that are that can't be proven. That's what pundits do.
But
I can only assert. My job is to assert and then run away.
So yeah, script. Any thoughts on that? So basically, Chato's job right now is to kick you in the balls and then run away. Is there anything you want to add to that script?
No, I think the ball successfully kicked. currently clutching and recovering right now, and I think that's an appropriate result.
That's right. Hoof to the head.
Yeah, pretty much. Tom, anything you want to add to that before we move on?
Nope.
All right, moving on.
I'm distracted anyway, so I wouldn't have a good take. We got Thursic Versus, who says, Chato, the novel Extras by Scott Westerfield has a reputation economy where everyone has a streaming channel.
Ah.
I wonder how old this novel is.
Yeah.
Mecha J says, will the FTX scandal become the next Enron 2.0? Maybe.
I will say no, but it should have been. And it goes right back to my previous point. Because we no longer have a mainstream media that is interested in covering actual news. Instead, mainstream media is right now corporate press, and the corporate press isn't doing journalism, it's doing cover-up. It's doing cover-up and protecting the narrative. This FTX thing, it's worse than Enron, much worse. But in order for it to be worse, it actually has to be covered. It has to be talked about. You need to have someone that can inform the public. This happened. This is what caused it to happen, and these are the effects of what happened, and this is how it is going to affect you. We had that when Enron hit. Then that was explained. People understood this is bad and here's why, and it affects you directly. But here, that's completely absent. Now it's just nothing to see here, move along. And because you're basically being gaslit by it not being covered. Same thing as this revelation that was the other day here with this guy who works, or I should say used to work, because they scrubbed his existence real fast. Again, it should be headlines worldwide, and it isn't. So I don't think there's going to be a next Enron 2.0.
Well, especially with so many powerful people and potentially involved in this that are going to try their best to make sure that they don't get sucked under the undertow.
Yeah,
that's
and
what I was going to mention. Yeah,
and I have to say, because of what they did with the FTX thing is that they just listed some of the institutions, but none of the private investors. And the reason apparently was, we don't want to dox them, because if we give their names, we like their addresses and phone numbers is also on this document. Well, redact that then. Just release their names without releasing their addresses and their phone numbers. I mean, simple as that. But no, they couldn't do that because someone is still doing cover-up here.
But their most important currency is reputation. This is what they're protecting more than anything else.
Yeah, and in so doing, they are covering up what genuinely is Enron 2.0, or rather, what is Enron squared, because that's what this is.
Yeah. And while Paul sadly has to leave us here, and I don't see any specific super chats for Paul necessarily, so this is the closest one. ActionCom says, if you were sent to Canadian prison for maple syrup smuggling, because we all know that of all of us on the panel, it would be Paul, would you want your fellow inmates to know about it?
Well, it makes for very good lube.
Oh, my.
Actually, it would be the opposite with how sticky it is.
Yeah,
I was going to say, that would be a mess.
Hey, you know what? It's what came up on the top of my head, script doctor, and I went with it.
No, that's fine.
Facts. Stop with the facts. They ruin jokes.
Well, I can see how you can make that work, though. I mean, you could, rather than be the guy to be lubed up, you could be like, hey, you protect me, I'm gonna get you so much
There's
lube
that
you can
I
have
got
your
the
way
scissor.
with everyone else around here.
And
I would
you
call it an
use,
aphrodisiac. Yeah.
you just use the light maple syrup, for crying out loud.
No, we want the heavy duty stuff. We want the dark.
You know what? I was just in my brain. I was trying to get it out quickly, and I thought maple syrup lube. Just say it. It didn't have to make any sense. Just get it out as quickly as possible. So,
That's what they would do in jail.
well,
Yeah.
I mean, the good thing is that it would make people, join longer. It would tough to get them apart.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it'd be a good bonding agent.
Yeah, a good bonding agent. LePages. Someone mentioned that on one of the Twitter forums. Who's your favorite Bond? And I said LePages.
That's a good one.
So,
Yeah.
anyways, yes, that's my
Thank you
answer.
for being here, Paul.
Oh,
And what do you got coming up? Anything to plug?
Well, I have a most recent video on my personal journey video, and then I'm still working on the TV guide one, and just having a good time. I've got so many half-written videos that I just got to get to them and crank them out and have fun doing them. I'm having a lot of fun doing videos right now. The January doldrums notwithstanding, but it's always nice to be on the show with you guys, and thank you for having me on. And we'll talk to you next week.
All right, excellent. Well, thanks for joining us today. Have a great weekend.
Yeah,
and,
you too.
everyone.
Have a
Check
nice
out
weekend,
Paul and
everyone.
Chato.
Bye.
Bye, Paul.
Take care, sir. Have a good weekend. And then we'll go back to the top of the list here. We've got Corvus6, who says, in regards to Hasbro toy discussion, being a collector myself, the toys now like Transformers are not as cool as what we got in the 80s, and I refuse to buy anything Disney branded. Well, there's that too. Yeah, I totally understand. I'm a toy collector of my own, so I understand having, standards on certain things. And
Yeah, I'm not a toy collector, but ironically, like the only cool toys I've seen for ages have been like Kenner reconstructions of like toys that look like they would have been like made in the 70s and 80s of like Marvel characters and stuff. That's pretty much it. But again, I'm
yeah,
not
but you
a
got to
toy
say these are
collector,
pretty
so do I not.
badass. Come on. They look just like they do in the movie. I would have loved to have had these as a
Two
kid.
Michelangelo.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
No, they're all four of
Is
them.
that Super 7?
No, this is NECA, actually, believe it or not.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, this is the Secret of the Used batch, and they actually put them in a huge VHS
I remember
slipcase.
that.
Yeah. So, no, they've been doing some good ones. They did the first run for the first movie too, but and I also have the big 14-inch versions of them too. But yeah, no, I hear you, brother. It's sometimes we get stuff that's cooler than when we were kids, and other times it's like this is just trash and it's 3 times the price, and why would I buy it? But some of them I've been liking, like I used to get heavily into the Super 7 took them over, but they used to do the like retro style toys that look like they would fit right in with your classic Star Wars figures.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about too.
That's what I thought. Yeah. I got a truckload of those, but I quit because they just had so many of them, and it got to a point where like I just wanted to collect the ones that didn't get a toy line of any kind. Because I started doing other lines like Star Trek and other ones that already had toy lines, and I'm like, yeah, it's cool to get them in that design, but there's already a ton of Star Trek toys. It was neat to see a Goonies line or a Karate Kid line, or even though Karate Kid eventually did get figures, but I mean for the first movie, and like Rocky Horror Picture Show would be more in line with that. Pulp Fiction was really neat to see theirs, like those are the ones that I've got. But after like some of those, I kind of dipped out. The horror movie ones were kind of cool, you got Freddy and Michael Myers and Jason and stuff, but yeah, then they just kind of fell off. But yeah, no, I hear you, brother. And then we've got Diro on here who sends in 10 euros. It says, a coffee talk brought out Tom's Midwest accent. Oh, did it? Even I, a non-English speaker, can hear it. Happy Friday, everybody. Sometimes it can happen, I guess. The Novella Princess sent us a super sticker. Let's see what we got here. It is a Shiba dog with a big smile on his face, tilting his head. Well, thank you so much, Novella Princess. We appreciate that. Does this dress make my ass look big is here, and says, coffee and vodka. Now we know why Andre doesn't mind the cold.
Well, there's a reason why alcohol consumption is like high in dark and cold subarctic places. And it's not necessarily because it tastes so good.
There you go. And then we've got Jesus, who just sends in a thumbs up. So if you haven't hit that thumbs up yet, now would be a good time. Thank you, Jesus, for the $10. Then Stian Monstad sends us in a super sticker. How'd I do this time?
Better and better.
And it is a thumbs up as well. So if Jesus wasn't enough, Stian should be more than enough to convince you to hit that thumbs up.
Yeah. But it's more emphasis on the E in Stian. Like, it's not Stian, it's Stian.
Stian.
Yeah, the second one was better there.
All right. Big Daddy MRI member for 20 months. And also thank you again for the very generous super chat earlier, sir. Says, hail Andre and Tom. Hail to the panel and the chat. Hit that like. Hail to the mods. Last day of our FDA audit. Sorry, couldn't help in the chat. Oh, no, that's no problem, my friend. Fantastic show today. Midnight's Edge in the Morning is a fantastic show. Well, thank you, Big Daddy. We always appreciate it when you can help out, but even if you can't, no big deal, my friend. That's why we have the mod crew. So each and every one of you can help each other out. Then we got Damaj and I in the house. How you doing, brother? Says, greetings, gentlemen. Hail, Chad. Hope all is well. Well, hope you're doing well, too. Good to see you. We got Chris Goodman here who says, remember the backlash Man of Steel got for destruction, yet the Shazam trailer shows tons of it. Well, we were talking a bit about it. And we also pointed out it's the obligatory stadium stuff, too.
Yeah.
There's some context, though, because we don't know how it's going to be in the movie. But in the case of Man of Steel, it was so much destruction that people got kind of like overwhelmed. It was like too much for too long. And then you had Superman snapping the neck of Zod, which kind of like came towards the end of it. So I think it was like a combination of several things. And several people also didn't like the dubstep. I enjoyed it myself, but that was me. Now, will Shazam repeat all of those? I kind of don't think so.
Yeah, that's a question. Yeah.
Will it completely destroy the city for 20 minutes straight against a backdrop of dubstep, and then end with making the 14-year-old boy a killer by being forced to break the neck of Helen Mirren? If it does that, then I can see Man of Steel comparison for
after it really doesn't matter because tens of thousands of people have already died. But fuck it.
But I kind of don't think that Shazam is going to go quite in that direction. And if it does, then I'll love it for it.
Actually, I could understand that situation a little bit more in this Shazam than I did in Man of Steel. Because of the simple fact that Billy is a 14-year-old and he still acts like a 14-year-old or less than a 14-year-old when he's Shazam. Because at that point, he's a character I could see being conflicted and making stupid decisions until he finally realizes, oh, maybe I should just kill this person, then maybe,
Well, you have the immature philosophy to it. And also,
exactly, yeah.
How many 14-year-olds really think long-term with regards to the value of other life? Like that's
what I mean. I could see it becoming an issue for somebody like that, because even at least Superman should be smart enough to take the fight. Like, what's the first thing he fucking does? He has them at his mom's farm and he drags their ass to town.
I know. How stupid is that? Here you are in the countryside when there's no one around. You can fight all you want, and there's not going to be a single casualty other than your mom's house.
A few cows, maybe.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Let's take him in through a gas station and then an IHOP. Yeah, that's what
exactly. He takes his ass to fucking town. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? That's the first moment in the movie where I'm just really like going, wait a minute here. Like, I mean, up to that point, I'm trying to be along with it, and then he takes the bad guys to fucking Smallville, and I'm like,
he takes them to the one population center, and he takes it to the one place in all of Smallville that's gonna have the most people collected at the same time, the IHOP, which is going to be the local community center.
Might as well have did it at the high school.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like that's where the most people are going to be. That's kind of like the cultural center of the town. And then once that is done, then he goes to the next biggest populated city, which is
No, he
right
doesn't.
smack in the most populated area of Metropolis. So yeah,
No,
nice
he
going,
doesn't go there
Superman.
first. He goes to the Indian Sea to stop the other part of the binary terraforming thing that's not
Yeah.
affecting any human life
Yeah.
directly there.
Yeah.
Instead, he goes there where it's the easiest of the fights, where Superman doesn't go for easy. He goes for, oh, there's people in downtown Metropolis. I'm going to go there and save them from this terraforming thing. And then all I have to do is destroy one of them and the whole thing stops. So it's like, I'm not going to sacrifice the city to stop this thing. I'm going to try and do both. And if he pulls it off, that makes him Superman. And if he doesn't, then he just tried and failed. But no, instead, this version of the character goes to, oh, that one's in a populated city surrounded by Kryptonians, but that one is in the Indian Sea surrounded by nobody. I'll go to the easy one. Thank you. That's not heroic. That's cowardly.
Yeah, that drove me nuts too. And then just, yeah.
And since we're on the topic, I have to say something else that drove me nuts. And it's about the neck snap. There were many people that were like, oh, Superman broke someone's neck, he killed the person, doesn't value life, yada, 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 blah, 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 blah,
No,
blah.
he just did it too
My
late.
issue, yeah, that's exactly my issue. My issue with it was that he should, like, the moment when his Zod's helmet came off and he was dazed and confused, what Superman needed to see right there is he's dazed and confused now. This is a trained soldier. I'm just a city boy from Kansas who happens to have, not sort of city boy, not like I'm just a farm
Country
boy from
boy,
Kansas. Country boy, no fighting experience whatsoever, just happened to be blessed with super strength. That guy, when he's like all the training and adaptation that I spent decades on, he's going to do in 2 minutes. I have this 2-minute window right now to end him. So he needed to break his neck right there. And once he knew the message, that's what he needed to do with all the other Kryptonians. He needed to break their helmets and then break their necks too. That's what the only thing he should have done.
And that's
Anything
why
else would have been a dereliction of duty. So my problem wasn't that he snapped Zod's neck, it was that he wasn't snapping everyone else's neck.
You know what? If the movie wasn't so loud, I'm sure the few people that were in the theater at the time could have heard me scream, "Get him away from the city! What are you fucking doing?" Like, that was me that whole time. Because even in Superman 2, the Donner, not Donner anymore, but
Lester one, yeah.
Lester one, back in the day, like even then, even though the three of them aren't nearly as destructive as they are in the Nolan film, even then he gets to the point where he's like, the people, and he gets them the fuck away from the people. They're like, he's a coward, he's flying away. He's like, no, he's not. He's getting the hell out of the city because he knows they'll chase him.
Yeah, well, he spends most of that fight trying to save the people.
Exactly, that's his whole thing. Yeah, and I love that whole bit. He's like, he cares for these people like pets, I suppose.
Yeah, like he catches a bus, it plants him into the wall, and then Metropolis citizens are like, "Oh my God, they tried to kill Superman. Let's go get him." It's like you're going to die, but they felt like fighting for the hero that is their actual hero, and then Superman, helps distract them and get the Phantom Zone criminals out of the city.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is in that joke, he cares about these people. Yeah, like pets, I suppose. That is actually something that fundamentally they did not understand during Man of Steel. Because I'm sitting here going, why the fuck would you terraform Earth so that everybody is just like you? When you have a completely subservient humanoid group of people on Earth who have to basically serve you or die because you are infinitely stronger, and who gives a fuck if they got a Superman because you're an army strong? Like, what the fuck is this? Like, are you dumb?
Yeah, they did that better in the 4th season premiere of Lois and Clark: The New Adventures of Superman, where Kryptonians take over Smallville.
Exactly. Like, at that point, you're like, yeah, they could take over the entire world, not even blink, and why would you terraform it? That makes no fucking sense whatsoever.
Well,
yeah, we're gonna build new Krypton.
To make it comfortable for them.
You
saw like how they were
powers in favor of being
uncomfortable for 2 minutes when they took off their helmet, right? Well, if they terraform it, then you make it uninhabitable to humans, but the Kryptonians won't have those 2 minutes of discomfort. So that's awesome. And also, let's not forget that in this universe, Jor-El is the biggest devil there's ever been. Because here's like the thing. I just have to say this because this is something that I was like, I couldn't believe what I was watching when I saw the movie. Because here, yeah, okay, Krypton was mismanaged in the current derelict generation, but the fathers of Krypton, they had a plan. They had a lifeline to save Krypton. And Jor-El, he went and he ended that lifeline. He just like decided that, oh no, you fascist, you want to punish the people that destroyed the planet by not bringing their bloodlines back again. Well, who are you, you fascist? I'm going to destroy all of Krypton. I'm just going to put it into my son, but no one else gets to come back again. No, 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 no. I decide who lives or dies on Krypton. That's basically what Jor-El did. He cut the lifeline that the planet had. He was not responsible for everyone dying, but he was responsible for the plan of revival failing. That's all on him. I mean, Zod's cause in that sense was righteous. He really fought for Krypton. And also, what was the reasoning for sending his son to Earth? Well, basically to enslave them. He was like, you're going to be so strong, like no one can match you there, and all of the humans, eventually, they're going to follow you. Basically, he sent Superman here not to be one to give him a life, but to be our leader. That's what he said. They will fall, they will stumble, but eventually they're going to learn to grovel for you. He didn't use those exact words, but that's kind of like what he was saying. Like, but that movie was so hopeless in many ways. Like, well, I like it, but I don't deny that it would plenty hopeless things about it.
Well, and that's the thing is I can't even enjoy it on this subtle level of like just a weird sci-fi movie about a Superman-like character, right? Because just from the start, the whole fundamental idea of everything from Krypton down the line is wrong, in my opinion. And not just so much wrong, but it just makes no sense. And that's where Script and I agree wholeheartedly on a lot of that. And, that's where I did my script doctoring. And I did a lot of the things that Script talks about. And I even took advantage of the things that you talked about. And even there, I even had a point where Zod turned on Kal, not so much because of anything else other than it's like he's loyal to these fucking people. It's like it's like a cat serving mice, basically. It's like, what is wrong with you? And that's where it's like, that's the thing. Zod would think that way. He's like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? He's serving them. They should be serving him. Like he's a god to them. Like that's what Zod would thrive on. He'd be like, I'm a fucking god here. Yeah. That's him. That would feed his ego like no.
Like I wanted to on Krypton. That's
exactly. And that's the thing is you can always have there's that fundamental thing that Zod and Jor-El seen eye to eye on a lot of things except for that one thing, and that was taking over the council or whatever it was that they broke apart on. But like at that point, Zod's just like completely crazed with power, and if he were to come upon a planet full of humanoid creatures like himself that were not even nearly as powerful as him, the last thing he would do would be just destroy them all or rebuild the planet with Kryptonians. He would use them as slave labor and treat himself as a god and make them serve him as a god. Yeah. That's what he would do.
And this is what Jor-El seemingly wanted, because that's kind of like what he said.
Which makes no sense too.
Yeah.
It's very strange when your protagonist and antagonist have the same motivation and outcome.
Which basically just goes to show, and this was kind of like my conclusion after watching the movie, was like, thank God Superman ain't real, because Earth would have been better off if Superman had never come our way.
No, yeah. I mean, and that's what really pissed me off about BVS, because it's like, all right, okay, look past some of the stupid shit. Let's say that this was just a hiccup of Superman on his first day on the job, which I hate that. That's another thing.
That's a straw man argument. Yeah,
I know it is, and I agree with you, Script. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, I'll allow you to have that.
Sure.
BVS should have been the fixing point. Everything they did in BVS went against. It's like at that point, you have every reason in the world for somebody like Lex Luthor, Bruce Wayne, any other Earthling to not trust Superman and them going against him. So even the easiness of that story being written and Superman trying to redeem himself and understand why he can't do that kind of shit anymore, it's not even part of the story, really.
No, one of
It's-
the first things he does in Batman v Superman is he obliterates that terrorist holding a gun at Lois. It's like, yeah, you value life, buddy.
Yeah, exactly. My point. It goes against everything that he should be trying to
learned.
strive to be. Yeah.
There's that. I mean, one of my favorite counter arguments, aside from Superman's first day, is well, Superman killed Zod in Superman 2. No, he didn't. He broke his hand and threw him into a pit in the Fortress of Solitude. No dead body, no murder. That's a movie rule, actually. And then on top of that, if you take a look at the TV version of Superman 2, Zod and co are hauled away by the Arctic police, and Lex Luthor is trying to convince Superman to be a boxing champion, like Kid Krypton or something. Sorry, you're reaching there when you're trying to argue that Superman has always killed. In the film.
I still wouldn't have a problem with him killing Zod. It was just too late at that point, right? And the obvious way of doing it is what Andre said, and that's why I did that in the script doctored version I did, and that was Kal-El takes advantage of the fact that these guys have to adjust to Earth, and he's already adjusted.
That's one window he has, 2 minutes. That's all the time he has.
I think the 2-minute stuff is very convoluted because
yeah, it should take longer.
It should basically be enough to the point where if he destroys those suits that are stabilizing them, they're now weakened and discombobulated, and that allows him to throw them back into the Phantom Zone. And that's what Superman would do. That is a very Superman.
That's what I pretty much do.
He wouldn't kill him. He'd be like, "Oh, this Phantom Zone portal's open. Well, all I have to do is just make sure I disable their suits, and then I can throw them in there because they haven't learned how to fly yet." And that's his advantage. I mean, it's the powers he has mastered versus them not. Even though they're soldiers, they can only do the basic physicals. They can jump real high and they can punch real hard. They can't fly. They can't shoot lasers out of their eyes, and they can't have freeze breath. So, and their super speed is not fully figured out yet. So that's where Superman has the advantage, and he would use all of those advantages to disable and imprison the Kryptonians. That's what Superman would do.
Well, and that's kind of what I did in my version too. Is similar to that. Basically he kills the rest of the Kryptonians on the ship because it gets blown up. So the only three that are left are Fioria, Non, and Zod. Yeah. And when he takes Zod gets away, but he takes Fioria and Non, and when he discombobulates them by fucking up their suits, and I tried to work within the confines of what was there as much as possible. So instead of having a Phantom Zone, because I didn't have that anymore in this version because it's destroyed after the Krypton thing, I went along with that. But what I did then was I had Superman take them up to the ship and put them in a prison there, since inside the ship it could actually make a environment that contains them. Exactly. And then basically you see that by having Non trying to punch his way, and his hand gets all bloodied and stuff like that. And then he goes back and takes care of Zod. But either way, that's the whole point, is yes, that's what he would do. And no, he doesn't normally kill if he doesn't have to, even in the comics still. And even people are asking about Nuclear Man. He didn't kill Nuclear Man. He actually just took away his battery. Maverick,
he turned him into a battery for a nuclear power plant, and Nuclear Man's not technically a living life form because it needs the sun in order to function. It's kind of it's like a replicant, a bioorganic battery, essentially.
Yeah. It was their second attempt again at more of a bizarro Superman that didn't work out.
The first one, the deleted scenes from that is, you can see why
it's hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do yourself a favor if you haven't seen that yet.
Actually, before
yes, he did. If you haven't seen the deleted scenes from Superman 4 Maverick, check it out. There's some bunch of stuff in there. But yeah, technically, I guess you could say he kills him, but was he really an actual living life form, or just more or less a creation? That can be argued.
It's weird. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah. And then we got Deus Pigeon, who said, I thought Wahlberg was on with Andy Samberg, Say Hello to Your Mother. Yes, he did one bit. Once.
Yeah, that's a walk-on bit, not a host. Yeah.
Yep. That's all he
Andy
did.
Samberg in the stomach.
Yep. But yeah, he's on the long list of big celebrities who have not been on SNL. Kareen says, James Gunn is getting it bad. I'm Henry Cavill's fan, but leave the man alone. Just don't support his next project. The hate online is too toxic. Support Henry's next film and make Warner Brother regret their disrespect. Okay, I'm not sure why the connection between James Gunn and Henry Cavill here, Kareen, but I agree. If you're somebody who doesn't support it, don't go see the next film. And
I think she may be referring to the fact that in Henry Cavill's Henry Cavill, in James Gunn's latest tweets. Like, he can't tweet anything right now without people being pretty nasty in the replies and about Henry Cavill. I mean, just earlier today, actually, he Instagrammed the picture of his cat, who was like distracting him when he was writing, and he didn't. And he's like, "Oh, this is cool because like every day is like Chato day or something like that. So like, time to pet the cat before moving on." And the reply to this picture of his cat was, "Screw your cat, we don't care. Bring us back Henry Cavill." And yeah, stuff like that. I think that may be what Karin is referring to. And I kind of agree, because right now it's already been done. The decision has been made. So now you can either choose to be really angry about it, which isn't very productive because it's not going to undo anything, or you can hope that James Gunn, even if it's not going to be with Cavill, he still might make a really cool universe. Maybe it would be a DC universe that you might like more. We don't know. If it doesn't, then come back and be as angry after the fact. But right now, I kind of agree. Like, give James Gunn some breathing space and support Henry Cavill in his next endeavor, which is probably going to be the Warhammer thing, not Warcraft. So yeah, and then make WB regret their disrespect. Actually, I would let's hope that James Gunn nails it and knocks it out of the park. So
Well, he
get
has
the
to
DC
now.
universe.
Because he's getting to that point where he's entering ManGold territory, and this is why I've been saying he needs to stay the fuck off the internet.
He's too much on Twitter. I mean, no good can come from it.
Because he's getting to the point now where he's been saying too much, and he's not even really been so much antagonistic. Yes, there's been some points where I would say he has, but
he keeps it up. He's going to be so fed up that he's going to be antagonistic.
There's that,
So
and
I
not
would
only
say-
that, it's just he's setting himself up for failure because the expectation is going to be so high. It's like, what now, motherfucker? When his first two projects may not be what everybody was hoping for. Or something.
He'd be far better off just lay off the internet, focus on his work, stay quiet.
Yeah, the DC announcement is 4 days away, or 4 days left of the month that they're supposedly.
He gave us a tease. He said he's referring to it as chapters, so we know that,
which is fine. Yeah, that's cool.
But outside of that, he said he did kind of give us an inclination that something will be said sooner than later. And I know there's, I think there's a.
We may get something today. For all we
may
know.
still get something today, but I wouldn't expect like this huge announcement of anything. Because that's the thing.
Huge, no,
I think basically what he'll be giving us is that it's going to be like an idea of, like you said, it's going to come in phases like Marvel, but it'll be chapters instead. And he may give us like a tease as to what, and then he may not even give us specifically, but more of a tease as to what to expect of the first few films. Because we got to remember, we are still a good few years away from seeing any of this shit. We got to keep that in mind. Even if they were to start production on something tomorrow,
the
it's
earliest
still
we'd see a trailer would be mid-2024.
That's what I'm saying. Exactly. So this is something that people got to also keep in mind. And this is part of the reason why I think they're not so worried about telling us that the Snyder-verse is coming to an end. It's so that we have this idea and know this, because there's going to be a padding of time, not a huge padding, but a short padding of time where there's only going to be some ancillary DC projects that get released in between that and the new, right?
And
You'll
that's
have
also
Warner
the
Brothers,
thing.
this is the year of the great flush. All the crap they're getting out this year, and with a little bit, bubbling to in early 2024, and then they're going to be their actual slate, the stuff that's under Zaslav's team, will start to make.
My guess is 25 to 26 is when we'll see the first James Gunn project that's in the official new DC run.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
I like your term, the great flush, because it is a flush. It is the previous administration's movies that's going to be flushed down the drain, and a shit ton of money will be flushed down the drain right with them.
Yeah, pretty much.
And that, I think, is a big reason for why they don't want to get people too excited, because they dropped like the Shazam trailer yesterday, right? And imagine then if James Gunn were to come out today and say, okay, now here's what comes next. So just screw that Shazam thing. It doesn't mean anything. That is kind of like the problem they have right now. We already know that all the upcoming movies, they're all creative dead ends. There's no future beyond them. It's going to all restart, probably. Although we're not certain.
No, but what they can do now, though, Andre, is say that this is the last chance you're going to get to see Michael Keaton as Batman, that you're going to get to see Ben Affleck as Batman, that you're going to get to see Henry Cavill as Superman, and so on and so forth.
If we're going to see that at all.
Well, there's nothing to here's the thing. We got to understand there's a lot of disinformation campaigns going on out there. Like even something like this. And again, we don't know what exactly James Gunn is going to do with Superman yet, but there's so much disinformation going on out there that somebody like Drunkosaur here is already going, they're replacing him with a crappy ass teeny bopper.
No, they're not.
We don't know that yet.
We don't know that.
That's what I'm saying. There's so much disinformation out there right now. And this is why I've been extremely quiet and I have not heard too much from my sources, which prior to this were very spot on. And that's because everything kind of went dead silent when James Gunn went into retreat or whatever you want to call it to go write this shit. And there's only a few people who know about what's going on. The people that have announced they're not coming back, that come directly from them. That didn't come from the studio. James Gunn acknowledged that Henry Cavill wasn't coming back. That announcement, both announcements came from Henry's camp, basically.
Yeah. Henry thought he was back because, again, his agent and The Rock told him that this is his returning and that it's going to be more things. And so that's what he did. And Warner Brothers was like, you know what? That's supporting Black Adam. That's a movie. We have money. We want to make money. Well, thumbs it up, whatever. Who cares? And then we learn, yep, that's his last filmed role, I guess, of him as playing Superman, because he already shot the stuff for the Flash a couple of years ago. And we
heard he shot more reshoots too, but yeah, sorry.
Well, he did, yeah, I guess. But again, it's all around that window of time was when he did the reshoots. So yeah, under his assumption and under the information he was given by his representatives, he said it was good to go. He made his thing. People respond to it fairly decently, and it was a heck of a push on a campaign. But Zaslav at the end of the day said, nope, it's not going in this direction. I want 10 years out of an actor. I want to also be able to afford him, and I want also an actor that's not going to be bigger than the character. And right now, for the fans of Henry Cavill, he is bigger than Superman to them.
That's what I've been kind of saying.
That's a bad marketing tactic.
And also, in addition to that, with Superman, I think that what he actually may have said was, I want an actor I can get at least 10 years out of, with an option of 10 more.
Well, and Jay Price, you're right. At the time before he actually fired her, Cavill did have the same agent as Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Yes, for years.
And I think part of the reason he fired her just prior to all this going down, that's the thing. And I think part of the reason she pushed so hard for this is this. And this is just my interpretation of between what I've heard and what I've seen, all this going on. Between all the bullshit that he was dealing with The Witcher, all the bullshit that he was dealing with Warner Brothers, all this bullshit going around that he was difficult to work with, and the fact that clearly she was spending more time on Rock's career than his in the last 5-10 years, that's why she got fired. She was trying to get rehired by giving him this Superman gig back. Didn't happen. That's my interpretation of the whole situation. So he has moved on. He is no longer with her. Her last shot at getting him back went out the fucking window. And in the process of it all, that is kind of where we saw the whole Superman business go down and him leave Witcher. Like Andre has said positively, I think correctly, several times over, The Witcher and Superman had nothing to do with the other. Despite what people want to say, because the Superman thing came together very last minute. That's why I was reluctant for a long time, and I turned out to be correct compared to a lot of other so-called scoopers who were saying, "Oh, he's already shot the scene for Shazam or Black Adam. It's in the can. It's in the can. It's in the can." And then he came from his words himself. The shit went down in September when I heard it. Exactly, because I said at that time there is a spot for him, but he has not shot it yet. They don't know if it's going to happen or not. And at that point, James Gunn was not even in the equation yet. He was part of the conversation, but he wasn't in the equation yet. And a lot of this shit all happened last minute. And the Black Adam situation was their last chance at saving the Snyderverse in any way, shape, or form. Because at that point, DeLuca and Pam Abdi were still on board with the possibility of salvaging this shit. Because you can even see it in certain interviews where they're talking about where they're open to that idea. But clearly, James Gunn came in and is not open to that idea anymore.
Well,
because
Zaslav would probably be the one they had to convince, right?
Zaslav wanted it clean and wanted a clear slate, basically. Yes, I'm thinking is the case. Yep. Because between the price of the actors, all the shit we talked about earlier, all that kind of crap coming down the road, looking at it, they were trying to get James from the start. That was the person they wanted to take this over. And I know that was clearly because they knew that Marvel probably had designs of him in the first place. So they wanted him to come over and do this for them since, you know, he's the next best bet you can get besides Jon Favreau or Feige, and Feige's damaged goods now. Which they even asked Feige if he wanted the job, and he turned it down. So I think that's even been confirmed. So, or at least confirmed enough for my taste anyhow. So at this point, we're just stuck in a situation where we have to wait and see what fucking happens. The only actor that we have any remote clue about right now is Momoa. And he's clearly been promised something beyond what's going on right now. And he's more excited about that than anything.
I hope it's Lobo. I so
at
hope
this
it's
point,
Lobo.
that's what all stars are pointing to. So yeah.
Yeah. And he'd be better at it. So if I was him, I'd be far more excited about the future because he's so like Lobo. That's him. That's him getting to play himself again.
And we don't know exactly what's going to all happen yet. There may be. I think it'll be a mistake if Gunn decides to keep his Suicide Squad team and Peacemaker all just so he can have that, and it'll muddy the waters if you ask me. Yeah, I think he should end it all. And I think
this second season's its last one, and I think we're going to get a hard reset. I would not be surprised. I have no problem with him reusing cast members, actors, and talent into different roles.
That's what I think is going to happen.
But I can see this being the denouement of the old regime of Warner Brothers, with ending with Peacemaker's seconds in the last season, I suspect.
And we don't know. I mean, then again, we do have the Amanda Waller series coming up and things.
But he
of that
can
sort.
rewrite that to fit into the new stuff, so it can be clean as well.
But I just don't see them recasting Viola Davis. That's the thing.
No, listen, Viola Davis is a great actress, and I like how she does Amanda Waller. But Amanda Waller is supposed to be a short, stout woman, and Viola Davis is not a stout woman. So I would prefer them to getting a one that physically represents her a little more, because she's the type of character of the fat cat, lazy but maniacally evil mastermind, political agent type of thing, type of person, and I think that that's far more sinister. Someone she's kind of like basically DC's take on the Kingpin, but a black woman, in that's on politics instead of private enterprise. Oops, sorry.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what he does, but I would not be surprised if he finds some way to keep like that is. I still think that he's going to keep Waller. He's going to keep Peacemaker. And I very well could be wrong, but I'm inclined to believe he's going to keep his own stuff.
I'm getting to the point where I'm thinking you were right, Andre, and I think it's going to be a big mistake because it's going to be the one crutch that everybody's going to lean into.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to be like, oh, so you could do this and you could do that, but you couldn't get rid of your wife and you couldn't get rid of this person and that person. It's like, yeah, at that point, if you don't, like, who cares if he recasts his wife into a different role? Yeah. Like that, then nobody can really say shit. But the moment he decides to keep around certain actors in the same role and you don't have Henry Cavill and all these other people, you're going to get the same shit you're getting now. And it's just going to be the same problem. You're still hanging on to that fucking baggage. And that's where
things. Yeah.
It finally made sense to me as to why you have to reset this thing from complete start again. And at this point, who cares? They've had 10 years to try and fix this shit. They already tried resetting it 2-3 times now with different things, and it just hasn't worked. So at this point, even if he has that connection through Peacemaker, he's got to throw the baby out with the bathwater. He's got to, or it's not going to work.
Yeah, we shall see what he does.
And again,
But
I'm just saying that that's just as a
think,
fan point
I
of view.
still think he's going to keep it.
No, and I think you're getting as we get closer to this. I think you're right, and that's going to be his biggest Achilles heel in this whole thing, and it's going to ruin the whole fucking thing going forward because it's going to sully the waters. You have no sense of the general audience anymore because they're going to be so confused still, because that's part of the fucking problem still, is the confusion among the general audience, and they have no idea what the fuck's going on anymore and who's in what universe. And you got Ben Affleck and you got Pattinson and you got fucking Joaquin Phoenix and you got Jared Leto and who knows who else in the Batman playing the Joker now, you know. So like, that's the problem. And this is, we can understand this stuff as nerds, but we have to constantly remind people that that's not how the general audience sees these things, and they get confused as fuck sometimes when they do this shit. And that's why they throw their hands up in the air and they just give up. And that's probably a big part of the reason that the Batman didn't perform like they were expecting it to. Because people just didn't give a shit at that. They're like, is this a prequel to Ben Affleck's Batman? And people were asking me these questions. My normie friends were, and my family members. And I'm like, no, it's its own thing, you know, and stuff. I had to explain it all. It was like Batman Begins all over again.
And it was right up until the release of The Dark Knight that people finally accepted that Batman Begins was a reboot and not a prequel to the Tim Burton movie.
Well, it wasn't any fault of anybody's other than just the way they marketed the film and the way that they promoted it and stuff. It's like, you wouldn't know. And it was so close at that time, you know, we weren't used to that constant reboot. Thing. Like, they recasted Batman so many times at that point, people had just thought, oh, it's just a new guy playing Batman now. And it's called Batman Begins. And that's what I had to constantly tell people at the video store. They're like, like, oh, I see that new Batman movie's out. It can't be any worse than the last one. It's like, actually, no, it's its own thing. And I had to explain all over that it's not a prequel to the Michael Keaton Batman. It's its own new thing. It's completely different. Trust me. You know, like, I had to explain it to everybody, believe it or not. And that's why that film suffered at the box office. I guarantee it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I mean, it did well, but it didn't do nearly as well as it could have, is my point. Go look at what Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises did in comparison, just to understand. Because at that point, that was post Spider-Man and all that shit, so it should have done better. Joey says, Dystopia is merely suburb of reality. Well, that's one way of looking at it, I guess. Mega J says, I heard that Gunn is going to bring Chris Pratt on in DC films when Guardians 3 is finished. Which role would you guys want him to play? Well, if it's true, Script Doctor, what would you like to see Chris Pratt play in the DC universe?
He should play Booster Gold.
I knew you were going to say that.
And if you're not familiar with him, I will reference an episode of Justice League Unlimited. It's the episode called The Greatest Story Never Told. You watch that episode, you will completely understand that it not only is something a little different for Chris Pratt, but it's also something that plays to his strengths a lot. So I highly recommend you check that out, because Booster Gold has a sidekick named Skeet, which is an AI robot that floats around him and is his biggest supporter. And something fun for an actor like him to play off of.
There you go. And I would have to go with Script's instincts on that, because I trust his instincts, because I don't know as much about the deep dive of DC characters. So,
yeah, same thing with me. I'm also going to go with the Script on this one, because that's actually one of the reasons why I'm more excited about the DC universe going forward, because I'm not such a big fan of the comics that I'll be annoyed from any departure. So I can just be excited about kind of like what's coming.
yeah.
So whatever Script says, you say Booster Gold. I don't even know what Booster Gold looks like, but you say that Chris Pratt is going to be a good Booster Gold. I believe you, and bring on Booster Gold.
Now, if this would have been Chris Pratt 10, 15 years ago, I think he would have made a good Flash. Perhaps. But I, again, digress. The Script would probably say if that's a good idea or not. But he's too old for that now. But
he was kind of too chubby.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if you took a skinny version of him back then.
He was never skinny. He didn't.
Well, if you could get a skinny version, like, yeah, if you took a skinny version when he was younger, he could have played
Like when
the
he was 7,
Flash.
because that's the last time he was skinny.
I didn't mean like in reality, dude. I'm just saying like in a perfect alternate universe, like with his
Yeah.
personality, like in his.
Well, he'd be okay for like a Wally West Flash. He's not a Barry Allen Flash.
Fine. Okay. That's the
Lucas
best. Then
Till-
Booster Gold.
Lucas Till is a Barry Allen Flash, and you can see him in X-Men First Class as Havoc, and he did MacGyver for a few seasons before that show was canceled. He's the type of actor who you could tell that he understood the words he was saying when he was talking about science. Like he actually looked up the definitions to make sure he was pronouncing them and using them and putting the proper inflection on the words needed to, which not many actors do. So that's something that's a skill you'd need for someone like Barry Allen. And he's also a blonde guy. Barry Allen's blonde. We haven't had a blonde live action Barry Allen ever. And we need that to change.
Yeah. And then we've got Pilgrim Media here who says, FYI, I delete every short on YouTube. Sorry. I didn't know you could delete them. Or unless you mean your own. I'm not sure. But thank you.
The main channel doesn't even have any shorts.
Yeah, the main channel has never done a short. Yeah. Megawing Zero says the CCP just made a few million people disappear. The mainstream media hasn't said a thing. Proof the mainstream media love to thing.
Did they make them disappear, or did they disappear like by way of like falling and not being able to get up again?
I have no idea what he's referring to, so I can't comment. Yeah. But I know it's hard to say over there. But I'll have to look into that. Gola82 says, all I remember from Man of Steel is flying dildo prisons for Zod and his friends. Also, Zod yelling, hearsay at Jarrell. Tom, one George Lucas impression, please.
That's heresy, not hearsay.
Heresy, yeah. Well, for me, it was hearsay because the movie was... People were telling me it was good. And I went and seen it. I'm like, even I wouldn't put flying dildos in my movies. How do you get a ship that looks like a dildo? Like a donut. That's different. You can make a ship that looks like a donut. Why would you go for a dildo? That's what you're getting for George Lucas this morning. SGT Point Blank says, I only care about Shazam 2 because Lucy Liu is in it. Nom nom. I'm not a big Lucy Liu fan, actually. She's all right, but...
But hey, if that's your reason for looking forward to it, good for you. Hope you'll end up enjoying the movie.
Heresy. I will find him. Then we got Action Figure World who says, hey guys, don't worry. James Gunn will bring back the red panties and boring Superman like 78 2006. Let's hope you all support it better than 2006. I don't find that boring Superman.
That's not boring Superman at all.
Yeah.
No, if you thought that's boring, you need to expand your stuff or horizons a bit more. And that's not like a dig at you. It's just, I mean, you're oversaturated with a lot of stuff that's terrible. So I strongly advise exploring the classics, man. Seeing, understanding the stakes of things. That's a great way to open up your palette. And also, if you're sick and tired of the current stuff, it's a great way to remind you that entertainment was fun and awesome.
Yeah,
I just don't understand why current fans need to put an edge on everything, right? Like, and this is more of a knock at Snyder than anything, because what he's doing is not even really making Superman technically and tonally dark. What he's just doing is trying to make it heavy metal MTV Superman, and it's like, yeah, no.
And heavy metal is like poser.
That's my point. Like, it just feels wrong. It's okay to let Superman be Superman. Now, if you were to let Zach go wild like that with Batman, that'd be an interesting take. Interesting take. I don't know if it worked out.
Frank Miller already did it, and
but yeah, you pretty much get Frank Miller Batman. You're right. So
yeah, and it's like that works good in its Elseworld. That, as popular as that story was, that's the reason why Batman is now considered a psychopath as opposed to the world's greatest detective. And again, a psychopath is a very low-hanging fruit, lazy way of justifying why Batman is Batman, and it's boring. It's not interesting. It's one-dimensional. Yeah, it's missing the mark and the premise of what the character started from and became. Because originally he was like a combination of the Zorro and the Shadow and a couple of others, and then he just found his own footing in the 60s, oddly enough, and then became something awesome in the 70s, and then the 80s kind of turned him into this I'm gonna have a war on crime stuff. And yeah, you can't fight a war on crime. You can only have a revolution, and a revolution and war are not always the same thing. So revolution doesn't have to be violent. That's one aspect of it.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of thing worked for more for like Black Adam, but it didn't work so much for Man of Steel, in my opinion.
Mhm.
Shadow Dancer the Red Mage says Roddenberry recast his own wife 3 times. Yeah, it's true. Of course, he probably got caught fucking around on her too much. That's sorry, I shouldn't have said
I don't
that.
think that she was his wife when they started. I think that
That's
came
too.
later.
Yeah, he was
No.
one of the other ladies then. Yeah.
Majel was the other woman that he ended up sticking with, but they were also swingers, is my understanding afterwards.
I would not be surprised. I mean, her being a swinger is, I think that given the reputation that Roddenberry had,
He liked the ladies.
finding a woman that was open to participate in his hobbies
Yeah.
would have been a perfect match for him, and a big part of the reason why that was the one he stayed with, as opposed to all of the other girls that came and went on the show.
Yeah.
Or
Very
that
good
weren't
point.
recast for anything else.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Then we got Mihan here, who says, followed Grace Randolph back in the 2010s after a video she uttered homophobic slurs, and since then I haven't watched her and the video has been deleted. Oh, I didn't even hear about this.
I'm not, you know what? This does not surprise me in the slightest,
Yeah.
actually. That she would have some videos with slurs. No, like now she's like this raging SJW and also inclusive and stuff. And then, lo and behold, into her past, she has that. That would not surprise me in the slightest, because the most virtuous people in public aren't necessarily always that in private. And their past may be a little bit sketchy.
Yeah, well, speaking of wokey wokes, we got some breaking news here via 6. So Mihan wants to know, script, when will part 3 of Valheim happen?
I don't know.
You gonna do more Viking?
That's me doing more Viking. I'll
Is that the proper term, Andre?
Valheim.
Valheim.
No, we call it Viking. We're like Andre, like we were trying to figure out last night. We got to ask Andre. We said.
Yeah.
Viking. Yeah, sure. That's
Is that a word?
I'm being a Viking
in English. Yeah.
I'm being a Viking in this game. And it's fun, but I don't know when I'll next do it. I've got some other things that I'll be that come priority, but I usually do it when I have free time, because those streams, the last 2 streams were both 4 hours. So yeah, it'll be when I have some time. Just follow me on Twitter to find out when, and I'll do it. The next one I'll probably do is the Diablo stream, but yeah, that's what I'm doing right now.
There you go. So there you go. And now with the breaking news, I just swore this was a Babylon Bee story. If it didn't come via the Hollywood Reporter.
Come on, bring it.
Okay, take a guess at who is going to be working on the new Tomb Raider TV series. I'll give you 3 guesses of possible wokey woke showrunners.
Okay, Akiva Goldsman?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
Wrong sex.
Oh, okay, so it's a woman.
Yeah, and woker than woke, who's known for wokeifying properties.
And the fact that this person is getting another one of these is just kind of weird. But yeah, anyway.
So then it'd have to be Phoebe Waller-Bridge, right?
Bing, 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 bing. So maybe this is the Indiana Jones series we were in.
For Amazon, of course. Because why not? I mean, after their failure with Rings of Power because of ideology, what would they do other than to double down and hire the biggest activist they can find for Tomb Raider? Amazing. Amazing. So, yeah, Tom, read the story.
So yes, coming via The Hollywood Reporter, Phoebe Waller-Bridge prepping Tomb Raider TV series for Amazon exclusive. Sources say the Fleabag Emmy winner will pen the script for a project which is the latest to stem for her recently renewed overall deal with the streamer. I'm assuming that's basically all there is in the story, but moving on. The TV series is based on the popular video game turned action movie Tomb Raider. The project, which is into the development stages, is the latest to stem from Waller-Bridge's recently renewed overall deal with the retail giant and streamer. Sources tell the reporter that Waller-Bridge is attached to write the scripts for Tomb Raider. It's unclear if Waller-Bridge also plans to star in the TV adaptation of the property. Oh boy,
She
that's
doesn't
all we
look the
need.
part.
Yeah, well, she could play another character, which spawned 2001 and 2018 film adaptations. I forgot the sequel there, but yeah, starring Angelina Jolie and Alicia Vikander. That's how you say her name, right?
Yeah, Vikander.
Vikander, respectively, and the adventurous archaeologist. The Lara Croft character was also voiced by actresses including Camilla Luddington, Keely Hawes, and Minnie Driver in a slew of video game titles. Haley Atwell also brought the character to life in the Netflix anime series. In addition to writing, Waller-Bridge will executive produce and produce the Amazon take alongside former head of comedy and drama. So you got 2 comedy writers working on this. You know, this feels like Star Trek Discovery all over again. Instead of getting somebody who may actually have some chops in this arena, why are we getting people who have absolutely no experience in writing shit like this?
Oh, because they're experienced in activism, and that's what Amazon is looking for. I can think of no other reason. Amazon, they look at how badly they failed with Rings of Power, but they're ideologues, and so they have to chase those branded properties because they're on notice right now. Because their boss, the owner of Amazon, Bezos himself, he was not happy with the failure of Rings of Power. That embarrassed him. So they're going to have to make up for it. They're going to have to find some other properties, and they have to do them right, get the audiences involved. Unfortunately, Jennifer Salke is still running this operation, and Jennifer Salke is as woke as it gets. Ain't no way that she's going to allow anything to come out of Amazon, especially not something big and major and branded. Yeah, of course, you have your Jack Reacher, which can escape under the radar because it isn't a major branded thing. Same thing with,
and that's owned by Paramount too, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Same thing with like this Chris Pratt thing, which was also popular. It also came out through Amazon, but their own stuff, which is branded, that's going to get their oversight. It's going to be ideologically pure.
Yeah, this was
going to end up rejected by the audience. That's exactly what's going to happen here.
This was actually announced by Jennifer Salke a while back, but the name didn't. They just announced an untitled project.
Yes,
with Phoebe Waller-Bridge.
Again, Jennifer Salke is going to go for that girl power across the board. So of course she will go and find Tomb Raider here, because why wouldn't she? And for those that may not remember, Jennifer Salke is the person that came in after Peter Rice and his compatriot were Me Too'd out of the company. They had a bunch of cool stuff going for them. Did I say not Peter Rice, but not the Disney guy? But
I was going to say, yeah, that's not who you think. Yeah, somebody else you mean.
Some other Rice, not Peter. But anyway, what she had the Conan series, and it was going to be absolutely amazing. It absolutely was going to be Amazon's Game of Thrones, exactly what Bezos had ordered, and she read the script and she almost had a nervous breakdown because of the toxic masculinity. She went back to the showrunner and said, okay, we need to make this female-centric. They said, no can do. You're going to have to agree to do this. And she said, nope. And no resolution was made, so she rejected that whole series. She fired the showrunner, who then took that same quality and went and fixed Game of Thrones, because he's the one who did House of the Dragon, while Amazon went on to fail with both the replacement
Yeah,
series,
ironically.
the Wheel of Time, and with the
Lord of the Rings.
Power.
It's like, can you imagine if they had to spend half the money on a Conan series that they did on the Rings of Power?
And they would have won, because here's like the
Oh
thing.
my god, even a third, you're right, script. It'd have been fucking amazeballs. You could even
And
afford
that's
to have
like the thing.
Schwarzenegger come in and narrate the son of a bitch.
Exactly, and that's like the thing. People don't give this enough attention, because the Rings of Power lost to House of the Dragon, but there wouldn't have been a House of the Dragon were it not for Jennifer Salke, because that only existed because HBO went and they swooped up the showrunner she fired from Conan to fix Game of Thrones for them.
Yep, and his partner or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And in the alternate universe where Jennifer Salke didn't do that, where she just said, "Okay, it's not for me, but you know what? I can see this might have an audience. This very well could be the next Game of Thrones. So you just focus on this. Well, I want to go and focus my attention elsewhere." They would have won. I mean, the Rings of Power still would have been awful, but there wouldn't have been a Wheel of Time. Instead, there would have been Conan, and there wouldn't have been any Game of Thrones to compete against it. They would have won. And this is the
Indeed.
woman that now has hired Phoebe Waller-Bridge to make an activist Tomb Raider, and of course, it's going to be activist. I mean, that's why they hire Phoebe Waller-Bridge. If they were looking to do like straight up action, a straight up adaptation, they would never have gone with her. So yeah, this tells us everything we need to know, and we can write off that series right away. Any
All right.
disagreement on that script?
No,
Am I
I agree
wrong?
with you.
No, that's basically what we'll be lucky if this thing actually makes it to pilot. So
Well, Conan, on the other hand, is on its way out for Netflix. That we know.
Yeah. Last thing I heard there is that they're very happy. The showrunner, which has not been announced to the public, but there is a showrunner working really hard at it. Loads of stuff happening behind the scenes, and we can expect some public announcements around the time of the Titan comic book series. Because why would they announce something earlier?
Yeah, it's all going to tie in together. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. When you can get some tie-ins and synergies, you want to wait for that. So
Well,
for
and this
anyone
kind of gives
wondering-
us.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead,
That's
Andre.
yeah. So for anyone wondering what's up with Conan, well, that's what's up with that. Everything is going smoothly. They're just waiting for the right time to make some key announcements.
And this kind of gives us an idea of how long it takes for some of these projects to come together, too, because we were one of the first to talk about it when it was announced with Frederick Malmberg himself. You can check out that interview. And there he wasn't really able to tell us much, but he was kind of give us an idea of what we could expect. And if it's popular, like the sky's the limit. It must be going smooth enough that they've already decided to start developing a Solomon Kane series. I must say that. So, I mean, there's that part of it. I mean, we don't know where that's going to go or how far along that is either, but we were, privy to that announcement. So, like, yeah, I'm looking forward to what Frederick and the gang has in store for us. Hopefully it's something that Netflix can use to have an entire, like, Conan verse going on Netflix. That'd be awesome. And as long as those guys are keeping
Yeah,
things.
as long as those guys are smarter than they were at Amazon. Then,
Well, on the plus side is we have, like, Frederick and those kind of guys trying to make sure that Conan stays Conan.
Yeah, and that's the beauty. Unlike most other things, they actually have a true champion of the brand and staying true to it, which is something that none of these other things do. Because if Tomb Raider had that, and that's part of this group that also own Lord of the Rings, that we still have to do that video on. This reminds me, that's back on the priority list now. The Embracer Group. This is something that they would have signed off on, because I do believe that Embracer are right now the ultimate owner of the Tomb Raider brand, but they evidently have put a really lackluster showrunner on it for allowing a series with Phoebe Waller-Bridge to even happen.
Yeah, I got no faith for this series, man. None at all. And on that note, Mihan sends in 20. That's Swedish krona, right?
That is Swedish krona, yes.
Yeah. Lara Croft, testosterone raider. Of course she will star. Maybe, but I doubt it. If they actually go that route, you're looking at like Ghostbusters 2016 level shit. Like, and they've managed to do that without even race swapping or gender swapping. I mean, sorry. Just basically making Phoebe Waller-Bridge Lara Croft. I think the internet would explode. I don't think it could contain it.
I don't think so. I don't think the internet would care much, to be completely honest.
The internet has never exploded, so it never will.
It will over this.
No, it won't.
I don't think that.
Some nerd will blow it up.
Be upset, and then that's it. The internet's very big.
Some nerd will figure out where the internet originates from, and he will be like, "Fuck you! You fucked with my Lara Croft. That's the last straw," and he will blow up the internet. End of internet. Al Gore will be like, "Oh my god, he destroyed my baby." Okay. Anyway, we love you all. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. It is Nina's birthday, evidently. So happy birthday to Nina Infinity, our own toxic femme. I think she's going to be doing a stream. Isn't that right, Script?
She's doing it now.
Doing it right now. So let me grab the link for you guys. Actually started about an hour ago. Here we go. We got to go over and say hi to her, of course, Andre.
Oh, yeah, of course.
But I'll share that in the stream link here in the blah, 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 boom. So head on over and wish Nina a happy birthday. And with that, thank you all for being here. Script, you may be doing some streams this weekend at some point.
Yes.
Anything you want to plug in particular?
No. Well, I just dropped a short that YouTube Content ID didn't block me. So it's 6 seconds. Go check that out. It's on my channel. It's a little fun. Little
6 seconds. You can all afford that, even if you don't like shorts.
Exactly. And yeah, that's about it. And follow us on Twitter because we might do something tomorrow, right, Tom?
Yes, it looks like we may be doing Groundhog's Day for our A-rated B movies and B-rated A movies. So hopefully you will join us then. It looks like 4 Central is the time we decided on. So,
yes.
Tomorrow. So see you there. And with that, Andre.
With that, it is time to go and raid Nina Infinity and then go for a cultured casino after that. And then it's time for the koalas to endure the rain.
Oh, yeah, I gotta have a button ready, don't I? I was sending Nina a super sticker thingy chat. Oops. Where is the button at?
What? Koalas.
I had it.
Koalas in the rain. Koalas in the rain. No fucks given. Koala. Koalas in the rain. Koalas in the rain. No fucks given.